Shinsi was stunned by the sudden outburst of yelling. It only took a second for him to figure out what was going on. Ranking list. This list ranks all current survivors by combat strength. Anyone ranked within the top 1,000 gains periodic rewards every 7 days. Higher rankings yield far more valuable prizes. Just a single spot higher in the rankings. Was it really worth throwing such a fit over trivial rewards? Shinsi let out a helpless chuckle, unwilling to waste any energy on such a petty troublemaker. Inside the regional chat channel, when Shinsi failed to respond, Feng Sha typed another message. Cat got your tongue? Scared already? The new batch of survivors this round is pathetic. Do you think staying silent will get you off the hook? Today, your old man phone will teach you the hard rules of the turbulent sea. Dual scroll activated. Please select your dual target. A malicious grin stretched across Feng Sha's face as he spoke in a cold, grim tone. Shinsi, current rank 999. Target verified. Dual scroll successfully deployed. Would you like to open a live broadcast of the duel? Of course I want the live stream running. Everyone needs to witness what happens when you cross Feng Sha. Mysterious light emanated from the ship core, and Shinsi's figure vanished from the deck in an instant. The next moment, he found himself transported to an unfamiliar duel arena. Four stone pillars carved with divine runes stood at the four corners of the enclosed space, sealed off by a glowing barrier, with nothing but endless void stretching beyond the arena bounds. Standing directly across from him was a man dressed in bizarre attire. He was tall and lanky, draped sloppily in tattered dark cloth strips that parted to reveal a pale green suit of armor underneath. A curved scimitar hung loosely at his waist, and he stared at Shinsi with undisguised contempt. So you're Shinsi? The brat who bumped me down a rank? Judging by your shabby getup, you're nothing special. Where's your weapon? Oh, I get it. This is your first time being teleported by the ship core, so you didn't grab your gear before being pulled here. Relax, I came fully armed. Out of the goodness of my heart, I'll walk you through the origins of every piece of my equipment before I take you down. This scimitar right here. Shinsi was already simmering with rage from being forcibly dragged into the duel without consent. Listening to the man ramble on endlessly pushed his anger to its breaking point. I haven't even finished explaining my class. I'm a rare tier 3rd tier storm warrior with command over storm energy. Before Feng Sha could finish his bragging speech, Shinsi unleashed Death Storm with a casual raise of his hand and obliterated him instantly. Non-stop chatter. Haven't you heard villains always lose because they talk too much? Shinsi spat lightly beside Feng Sha's wide-eyed corpse. Then his form faded away from the arena. Duel concluded. Survivor Shinsi claims victory. The victor inherits all possessions of the defeated opponent. Back at the edge of the turbulent sea, Shinsi rematerialized on the deck of the demon vessel. At the exact same time, a 30-meter, 3-masted sailing ship materialized alongside his vessel. Impossible. How could our captain lose to a rookie? A bandana-wearing crew member aboard the 3-masted ship stared in horror toward the demon vessel. A man who looked like a squad lead clapped the panicked sailor on the shoulder to calm him down. Don't panic. Our new captain is just a fresh arrival from the initial sea. He knows almost nothing about surviving the turbulent sea. If he hopes to stay alive out here, he can't afford to dispose of us. He'll have to treat us with deference and rely heavily on our help. We're the only ones familiar with every secret of these waters. We'll submit to him for the time being. Once he lets his guard down, we strike and kill him. Everything he owns will belong to us afterward. Shinsi could not hear their plotting, but Sasha sent him an urgent warning. The shark girl sniffed the sea air sharply. Captain, these men reek of thick bloodlust. I can also pick up a strong aura of malicious scheming hanging around them. Ever since Sasha unlocked the chef class, her sense of smell had undergone a unique evolution. She could detect tangible scents in the air as well as emotional auras emanating from other living beings. I see. Shinsi folded his hands behind his back and looked down at the approaching 3-masted ship. The ragged, vicious-looking crew knelt toward him in unison, shouting, "Long live our captain," repeatedly. Shinsi let out a cold sneer. High-value targets detected. Proceed with full absorption into the system mall. Confirm absorption. A burst of bright light wrapped the entire 3-masted ship and its crew, their forms twisting and dissolving within the glowing distortion until nothing remained. No, you cannot absorb us into the mall. We hold priceless knowledge of this ocean. We swear to aid you in rising to become the 4th Sea King. I have no intention of conquering these seas or vying for the title of Sea King. My crew and I only aim to safely navigate and explore these waters. No. A shrill scream echoed out before the ship vanished completely. 3-masted vessel plus all crew successfully absorbed. Reward, 10,000 nautical coins. Note, nautical coins serve as the sole universal currency for ocean survival. Every conceivable item can be purchased from the system mall using these coins. If the global ranking was a brutal arena where the strong ruled unconditionally, the system mall was a playground for those who held economic power. Here, people could buy and sell absolutely anything, including other survivors themselves. Footage of Shen Ci instantly defeating Feng Sha looped non-stop across the regional chat channel. New survivors who had only recently left the initial sea were filled with dread. What even is this duel mechanic? Is there no way to decline a duel challenge? Damn it. Forcing us inexperienced newbies into fights against seasoned veterans is no different from signing our own death warrants. Quit your whining. This is how ocean survival was always meant to be. This is the turbulent sea. Winners claim everything. Losers become helpless prey for whoever defeats them. That's right, amateurs. If you spot me out on these waters, you do well to turn your ships and flee immediately. Back at Shen Ci's location on the turbulent sea's fringe, every survivor's gaze was locked firmly onto the demon vessel and its captain. Some watched in terror, others with burning envy. Still, no one could deny Shen Ci's status as the undisputed top rookie of this sea zone. His solo takedown of the Kraken alone cemented this title beyond any dispute. Once the commotion died down, the gathered survivors split apart and sailed their separate ways. Wang Teng, leader of the Ascendant Chamber of Commerce, offered Shen Ci a vice president position to recruit him into their faction. Shen Ci turned the offer down flatly. The Ascendant Chamber had contributed the least firepower during the battle against the Kraken. He understood that merchants prioritized profit above all else, yet this mindset clashed sharply with his own principles. Instead, Shen Ci sent a friend request to Zhao Gang, leader of the Steel Brotherhood. Zhao Gang had endured wave after wave of the Kraken's assaults without retreating an inch during the monster attack, earning Shen Ci's sincere respect as a valiant warrior. Moments later, dozens of small boats surrounded the demon vessel. A group of independent survivors led by Zhang Long and Zhao who held out 50% of their total supplies as a token of gratitude. Sir, please accept these supplies from all of us. Truly, if you hadn't stepped in, every last one of us wandering survivors would have perished in the reverse current waterfall. The survivors held up their goods respectfully, many glancing toward Shen Ci with quiet hopefulness. Shen Ci saw straight through their hidden motives. They only hoped to build a loose connection to him, so they could hide behind his reputation to shield themselves from danger in the future. Shen Ci did not mind their cautious self-preservation. For one thing, the demon vessel was a unique flagship that required double the standard amount of materials for upgrades. Inevitably, he would clash with major factions over resource claims, and those factions would think twice before targeting anyone associated with his ship for fear of facing his retaliation. For another, the battle against the Kraken had shown him the strength found in collective numbers. Extra hands could prove invaluable during critical crises. When Zhao, who watched his idol personally take the supplies he offered, his admiration spilled over completely. Please take us as your loyal followers, sir. I, Zhao Hu, will brave fire and blade for you without a single moment of hesitation. His words sparked an immediate response from the surrounding independent survivors, who all voiced their eagerness to serve under him. Shen Ci's expression hardened instantly. Zhao Hu's request strayed far from what Shen Ci had intended. Accepting their gifts and acknowledging their goodwill was already the limit of his willingness to engage with them. Unlike many powerful survivors who sought to build large factions, Shen harbored no desire to lead an organized force. In his mind, keeping his existing crew safe aboard the demon vessel and enduring the harsh trials of ocean survival together was more than enough of a goal. An awkward silence fell over the deck. Faint arcs of lightning flickered faintly beneath Shen Ci's armor, signaling his growing irritation. It was then that Jean walked over, linked her arm through his, and whispered a suggestion into his ear. We cannot officially take them as subordinates, that much is clear. But we know almost nothing about this sea region, and we need many extra people to gather intelligence across the waters. You're right. Instead of building a formal organization, we can form a loose alliance with no designated leader. Members only need to abide by a small set of core ground rules, with no deep binding obligations between each party. Yue Zhao chimed in with a supplementary plan. As for Sasha, she was eager to recruit the group as followers but respected Shen Ci's judgment. After a long moment of thought, Shen Ci spoke aloud for everyone to hear. We cross paths by chance. Let us form an alliance together instead. There will be no supreme leader, nor any unfair control over members. The only requirement for joining is adherence to basic shared principles. All alliance members may assist one another and trade resources openly. Our single core rule: every choice we make prioritizes survival above everything else. We live on, no matter what hardships come. After Shinsei finished speaking, the survivors exchanged uncertain glances. Some looked disappointed, others thrilled at the proposal. Reactions varied across the crowd. I, Zhonglong, joined this alliance. I'm Zhao Hu and I joined too. The alliance was officially established right then, christened the Black Alliance, marked with a black ship as its official emblem. That evening, a grand feast was held on the deck of the demon vessel to celebrate the alliance's founding. During the banquet, Shinsei picked out several trustworthy survivors and handed out the ordinary gray devil fruits he had stockpiled and used in his warehouse to them, tasking them with gathering field intelligence for his crew. Lately, every ordinary devil fruit he had obtained belonged exclusively to the Zoan category. He had fruits granting the abilities of an orange tabby cat, a husky dog, and other common animals. Though consuming these fruits boosted physical fitness noticeably, Shin found their abilities far too mediocre for his own use. Various animal noises echoed across the banquet deck soon afterward. Zhonglong ate the snake fruit, hognose snake model, while Zhaohu consumed the cat fruit, orange tabby model respectively. The next day, the demon vessel sailed steadily across open waters. Unlike the initial sea, the gray fog of the turbulent sea did not chase survivors relentlessly. Instead, it drifted across the sea in predictable cycles akin to seasonal shifts. The sky above the turbulent sea was vastly different as well. 3 crescent moons swirled and intertwined with one another in the night sky. Most troublesome of all was the wildly erratic weather of these waters. Warm weather suitable for short sleeves could shift overnight to frigid temperatures requiring thick down jackets. The weather conditions shifted drastically nearly every single day. A heavy snowfall began drifting down from the sky just moments prior. On the deck, Yuezhao practiced her swordsmanship against the sea surface. Sasha and Njin were caught up in a snowball fight. A soft thud sounded as Njin accidentally tossed a snowball straight into Sasha's open mouth. Sasha froze on the spot, her jaw moving instinctively as she chewed the packed snow. Having only taken human form for roughly 2 weeks, Sasha had never encountered snow before, and she found the cold, fluffy substance surprisingly pleasant to taste. A faint smile tugged at Shinsei's lips as he watched the scene. Compared to dominating the ocean's power struggles, he valued these quiet, peaceful moments far more deeply. Sasha, what's for breakfast this morning? Stargazy pie? I found the recipe recorded inside that old nautical logbook. Coincidentally, Sister and Jean caught several long-legged sardines earlier today, so I put together a pie using those fish. Inside the mess hall, every person besides Sasha stared uneasily at the bizarre dish set before them. Whole fish heads stared upward lifelessly from the center of the pie crust, lined with strips shaped like human limbs along the outer edge of the pastry. Shinsei stared at Sasha in disbelief. Is this meal even edible for humans? Sasha was busy eating a simple snow and jam-chilled treat at that moment. She stiffened, pulled out the nautical logbook, flipped to the page showing the stargazy pie illustration, and made muffled noises to defend her cooking. The snow falling outside seemed to echo Sasha's aggrieved frustration. Even with complete access to Blue Planet's comprehensive culinary knowledge, Sasha was still a shark at her core, and her taste receptors worked nothing like a human's. What tasted acceptable to her was practically inedible garbage for the rest of the crew. Bring the logbook over here. Shinsei was equal parts amused and exasperated, gesturing for Sasha to hand him the book, fully intending to flick her lightly on the forehead out of playful frustration. Having spent plenty of time with Shinsei, Sasha could read his subtle moods with ease. She passed the logbook to Njin instead, asking her to deliver it to the captain on her behalf. The second the nautical logbook touched Njin's hands, the ancient text abruptly came alive. It wriggled free of her grasp and flew straight toward the plate of stargazy pie, fusing the pages together to form a massive mouth that swallowed the entire pie along with its ceramic plate whole, smacking its lips loudly afterward. A hoarse yet playful voice resounded throughout the mess hall. That's exactly the flavor I've been craving. Feed me more of this pie. The logbook then floated swiftly toward Shinsei. Shinsei flicked a bolt of condensed lightning toward the book without hesitation. The logbook shuddered, wispy black smoke curling off its pages. Ow, that stings. Pure lightning energy. Don't zap me. I just want more stargazy pie. Sensing no hostile intent from the sentient book, Shin held back further attacks and watched quietly as it devoured every serving of the pie left on the crew's plates. It had nothing to do with how unappetizing the dish was to everyone else, or their collective relief at having someone else finish the meal. After letting out a loud belch from its full meal, the logbook reverted to its book form and hovered midair, its pages flipping rapidly non-stop. The ship core materialized inside the mess hall in response to the logbook's energy signature. Strings of ancient runes glowed across the logbook's pages, which the ship core instantly translated into readable text. Series Quest: The Tragedy of Loomis has been activated. Survivors must locate the fabled sun-dappled island that holds the fallen kingdom of Loomis and fulfill the last wishes of Loomis's deceased king. Quest reward: undisclosed. Note: this is a long-lost ancient kingdom. Try to imagine the staggering wealth sealed within its borders. The logbook stopped flipping pages and settled down onto the dining table. A navigational map projected outward from the ship core, marking the destination as the vast sea territory known as the Dawn Archipelago. Shinsei decided against setting sail immediately. There was no time limit imposed on the quest, so he could make thorough preparations first. The brutal battle against the Kraken had only just ended. Supplies needed restocking, and his crew deserved ample time to recover their strength. Shinsei retrieved 2 treasure chests rewarded for slaying the Kraken. These chests guaranteed, at minimum, purple tier loot. As someone with notoriously poor luck with loot rolls, opening them himself would be nothing short of wasteful. And Jean was far better suited for the task. And Jean, how's your luck aligned today? Moderate good fortune, calm days with smooth outcomes ahead. Perfect. Open these 2 treasure chests for me. Ever since the luck blessed and Jean boarded the demon vessel, she had been the designated opener for every supply crate and treasure chest the crew collected. Shin had tried opening chests on his own once before, wasting 3 chests only to draw 3 identical warrior-class scrolls in a row. Though he joked about his bad luck, he reasoned that in Jin's presence aboard his vessel meant he was the true bearer of incredible fortune after all. And Jin opened the first chest one at a time. The first chest yielded a farm construction card. Farm construction card special item. Rank: purple rare. Effect: instantly construct a functional farm upon activation. The farm automatically cultivates common vegetation. Elite supernatural plant life requires assigned class holders for growth and maintenance. Thanks to Shun's book fruit ability, all vegetables stored on the ship never spoiled, leaving the crew with abundant vegetable reserves. Without viable seeds to grow supernatural plants, the farm card served little practical purpose for the time being. As Jean unlocked the second treasure chest, a brilliant orange light burst forth. Congratulations for obtaining the Combat Simulation Chamber Construction card. Combat Simulation Chamber Construction card. Rank: Orange Epic. Core functions: 1. Combat Reconstruction. The chamber reconstructs every foe you have defeated, allowing unlimited rematch practice against past enemies. Targeted combat drills. Multiple built-in training modes are available to refine all physical and combat abilities of survivors. 3. Class Advancement Support. By collecting sufficient combat data samples, the chamber records complete promotion paths for each combat class. Survivors may complete class awakenings and advancements entirely within the simulation chamber. Note: recorded class sequences: Warrior, Mage, Priest. Orange rarity, truly fitting for someone blessed with such natural lucky fortune. Overjoyed by the chamber's powerful attributes, Shinsei lifted Jean off her feet and spun her around in a warm embrace, openly showing his fondness for her in front of the whole crew. Sasha felt her position as the captain's most trusted companion momentarily threatened, while a faint flush spread across Yuezhao's normally icy, emotionless face. Shun and Jin's reaction was completely justified. The combat simulation chamber was overwhelmingly overpowered. Its first 2 functions alone drastically boosted combat proficiency for the entire crew. In this ocean survival world, official tier rankings never fully reflected actual battle strength. Take Yuezhao for example. She had only been Tier 1 warrior when they first met, yet her real combat power matched a mid-tier Tier 2 fighter. Shin's own strength was even more disproportionate. His devil fruit abilities granted him Tier 2 combat prowess long before he unlocked any formal combat class. This imbalance was exactly what the global ranking system existed to quantify. Top 1,000 ranked survivors could resolve most conflicts simply by disclosing their standing, with few rational fighters daring to challenge someone ranked higher than themselves. Fengsha was simply an irrational exception to this common sense. The chamber's third function was its most game-changing feature by far. Class holders were extremely scarce within the initial sea, with major factions willing to wage bloody conflicts just to obtain a single class awakening scroll. Even within the turbulent sea, Countless factions recruited survivors by offering free class scrolls as recruitment bait, highlighting just how valuable formal combat classes were to survival. Now this simulation chamber removed the need for rare awakening scrolls entirely to unlock and upgrade combat classes, with potential to archive multiple distinct class progression trees over time. This asset alone is the foundational backbone for a top-tier hegemonic faction. Shin Si muttered quietly to himself. Shin fully understood the risks of possessing such an unmatched treasure. To avoid drawing unwanted attention from hostile survivors, he installed the combat simulation chamber deep within the ship's bottom warehouse. With the demon vessel anchored in calm waters, Shun granted every member of his crew a full night of unrestricted rest. Get a good rest tonight. Leave all your troubles aside for now. Tomorrow, we embark on a brand new adventure. Early the next morning, Shin Si rubbed his sleepy eyes and pushed open the door to the cultivation chamber. The door had been bolted shut from the inside. After a few knocks, Yu Zhao stumbled out drenched in sweat, looking thoroughly worn out. Seems this woman spent the entire night training in there nonstop. Shin Si shook his head, sighing at Yu Zhao's fanatical drive to grow stronger. Strength would come naturally with time. If worse came to worst, he could just eat a few more devil fruits anyway. Shin Si spent some time inside the simulated cultivation chamber and left utterly satisfied. He challenged the Kraken within the simulation. Since it was only a simulation with no real risk of death, he tested out every single skill he possessed. This trial finally let him gauge his true combat prowess. He could easily overpower Tier 3 foes without wielding Mjolnir or unleashing Deathstorm. As for his full-power lethal strikes, he had no clear idea what tier of strength that put him at. It was at minimum mid-tier 4, judging by how those two attacks wiped out the Kraken in an instant. If only his stamina stat was higher, 130 felt far too low. He hoped his next perfect grade devil fruit would be a Zoan type, preferably an ancient species variant. Other rookie survivors stared at their meager 78-point stamina values. Dude, 130 stamina? You're just showing off at this point. Accompanied by a dismissive hand gesture. With all preparations finished, the devil set sail toward the Dawn Archipelago. The Sea of Discord was blanketed by two distinct mists, white fog and crimson fog. White fog drifted and shifted its position as time passed. Crimson fog signified corruption and mortal danger. Twisted aberrations migrated alongside these red clouds, and any survivor venturing into the mist would suffer a steady drain on their sanity gauge. Safe shipping lanes had therefore been mapped out across these waters. After reading through the navigation brief, Shin Si immediately ordered Njin to document all the key details. Thanks to his high proficiency wind fruit ability, the devil sailed at an unmatched blistering speed. Whenever he channeled his powers even moderately, the ship had to activate the diamond fruit's diamond hull transformation to keep its hull from breaking apart mid-voyage. Upon reaching the Dawn Archipelago, Shin Si began his island expedition. 2 full days of exploration yielded nothing but 2 small islets nearly identical to Nightfall Town. Frustrated by such paltry rewards after wasting so much time, Shin Si saw no point in letting Njin and the others tour the local scenery. After Shah confirmed the islands held no human inhabitants, the Sea God Cannon opened fire first to execute high-ranking half-ghouls, followed by barges from the Frankie Cannon to scour the land clean. The only silver lining was the 2 enhancement scrolls he looted from the wreckage. His overall mission progress had only risen by a measly 0.25, prompting Shin Si to press his palm against his forehead in exasperation. This approach isn't working. I need to come up with a better plan. Shin Si tapped his fingertips against the table, only to be pulled from his thoughts by incoming messages in the group chat. Zhao Hu. Good morning, boss. I'm here to report yesterday's intelligence. Zhang Long and I stumbled upon an island enveloped in crimson fog yesterday. The isle was swarming with half-ghouls disguised as humans hosting some sort of feast. We charged in to disrupt the gathering, but their sheer numbers forced us to retreat in the end. Report complete, awaiting your instructions. A flash of inspiration struck Shin Si. Half-ghouls holding a feast. Everything lined up perfectly now. He realized he could task the members of Black Covenant with scouting out uncharted islands across the sea. He had no intention of making them work for free. Shin Si always treated his people fairly. Anyone who discovered an island would be allowed to harvest leftover resources once Shin Si finished clearing it out. He would grant the discoverers a 10% share of all spoils reaped from each conquered island. His personal profit would take a minor hit, but he refused to let his allies bear all the hardship for nothing. Shin Si quickly settled on this solution and typed a reply to Zhao Hu. Stay anchored where you are. I'll head over to your location shortly. There's another task I need you to relay to every member of the faction. I require coordinates for as many similar islands as possible. I swear that any individual or team who provides valid coordinates will receive a 10% cut of all resources once I seize the island. I'll send you a search radius to distribute to everyone. Time is of the essence. Send me your current coordinates immediately. I'm leaving right away. Zhang Long and Zhao Hu's vessel floated beside the island overrun with feral half-ghouls. When Zhao Hu read Shen Si's message beneath the night sky, overwhelming admiration and loyalty welled up inside him. The boss actually replied to me, and he's assigned us an official mission. I have to stay fully focused and execute this flawlessly. Zhao Hu shot his coordinates straight to Shen Si, then posted the boss's orders in a group chat named the 9 Scoundrels of Black Covenant. Boss has issued a mission for all of us. Moments later, every member sent back a uniform acknowledgement of receipt. Zhang Long and Zhao Hu took turns standing guard while the other rested, waiting for Shen Si's arrival. It was midnight. The glow of 3 crescent moons spilled across the ocean's surface, casting an ethereal, mysterious haze over the open water. Zhang Long stared hard toward the horizon, blinking repeatedly to confirm what he saw. Gusts of wind whipped his clothes as thunderbolts slammed into the seawater one after another. There was no longer any room for doubt. Their boss had arrived. Zhang Hu yanked Zhao Hu roughly out of his sleeping bag, shaking him violently by the collar. "Wake up! The boss is here." Jolted awake abruptly, Zhao Hu snapped fully alert the second he heard those 2 words. He kicked his beloved sleeping bag aside, stood ramrod straight, adjusted his clothes with a deep breath, then pulled out a notebook and jotted down a line. "Second meeting with boss Shen Si tonight. My heart is racing with excitement. I cannot afford to mess this up." Zhao Hu climbed onto the deck and tilted his head upward. Shen Si stood clad in dark battle armor, crackling lightning and swirling gales coiling around his entire frame. "How did things progress here?" "I've passed the word to all faction members. Roughly 200 scouts in the surrounding waters have already begun their searches. Additionally, every survivor you've aided previously is en route to join the operation. We're looking at close to 1,000 participants total." Shen Si fell silent, stunned by that number. This count was far higher than he expected. Only around 300 people had attended the party aboard the Devil previously. Sensing his confusion from his silence, Zhang Long quickly spoke up. "The extra members joined our faction over the past few days. We apologize for failing to update you beforehand. Rest assured, Zhao Hu and I will act as intermediaries. Zhao Hu will board your ship to accompany you, while I meet with the gathered members and lead them away before you begin clearing the island." Shen Si gave a quiet nod and flicked his wrist. A powerful gust swept Zhao Hu onto the deck of the Devil. Thud! Ow! Zhao Hu groaned as he clutched his sore waist and slowly pushed himself upright. Dim green flames flickered inside, hanging lanterns strung along the pitch-black deck. When Zhao Hu leaned in for a closer look, his eyes widened in shock. These were soul calming lamps. Soul calming lamp rank. Blue fine effect. Pacifies restless spirits. Within the lamp's radius, the corruptive effects of crimson fog on survivors are significantly suppressed. Usage requirement. Fuel must consist of corpses from Tier 3 or higher aberrations. He recalled these lamps sold for a steep 100 maritime coins each in the faction shop. Combined, Zhang Long and himself only possessed a total of 125 maritime coins. And the boss was using these premium items as basic deck lighting? No wonder people say the world of top-tier powerhouses operates by entirely different rules. Zhao Hu pulled out his notebook and added another entry. The boss arrived punctually after dark. Instead of reprimanding our oversight, he graciously allowed me aboard his flagship. This is an immense honor I will never forget. Shen Si stood right behind Zhao Hu and caught sight of the writing. His face flushed with embarrassment, so he pretended not to notice and maintained his stoic composure. This was utterly awkward. He had imagined countless versions of how he was perceived by his subordinates, yet he never imagined being treated like a revered celebrity idol. Noticing Zhao Hu's equally flustered demeanor, Shen Si cleared his throat sharply. "Ahem. Your notes are well written, but don't keep doing this from now on." "Understood, boss." Zhao Hu stood rigid, pounding a fist firmly against his chest in a crisp, resolute response. "Off you go? Loiter somewhere on the deck for now." Shen Si was truly at a loss dealing with this eccentric, earnest man. Once Zhao Hu was dismissed, Shen Si channeled his pent-up awkwardness into raw power. A discharge of 10 million volts engulfed the entire island, instantly reducing the land to a blazing hellscape. Zhang Long stared at the charred, barren island, silently regretting that he had not been the one invited onto the boss's ship. Zhao Hu gaped open-mouthed at the towering pillar of lightning descending from the heavens and hastily scribbled more notes in his book. Boss Shenxiai is incomprehensibly strong. A casual single strike is enough to annihilate an entire island. True masters fight with overwhelming force. Words become unnecessary when action speaks for itself. Shenxiai watched Zhao Hu's starstruck expression and sighed inwardly. The man was completely awestruck beyond reason. Zhang Long was left with the tedious cleanup work. Once the smoke cleared from the island, he scavenged only piles of charred timber before returning to his vessel. He had originally planned to harvest lumber from the island's forest to upgrade his own ship to Tier 3, yet now the wood was only fit for burning as kindling. I'll get back at Zhao Hu for this later. Just wait till we wrap up these tasks. As Zhao Hu continued scribbling in his notebook, a sudden cold chill ran down his neck, leaving him gasping for breath for no clear reason. Amused by the pair's contrasting reactions, Shenxiai spoke aloud. It's grown far too late. Return to your vessels and rest for the night. We reconvene first thing tomorrow morning. Zhao Hu was escorted off the Devil, and the ship pulled away into the distance. Faint shouts of pain drifted over on the wind. The two vessels met up again the next morning, following the arrangement Zhang Long had proposed the previous night. As a gesture of goodwill, Shenxiai invited both men to share breakfast aboard his flagship. The banquet he had hosted before was purely for show, consisting of expired canned meat and heavily watered-down liquor. This private meal was far more refined in comparison. That said, this spread was merely Shenxi's ordinary daily breakfast. Zhang Long and Zhao Hu sat stiffly at the dining table, afraid to make any sudden movements. The sheer oppressive aura emanating from everyone present weighed heavily on them. Shenxiai naturally radiated overwhelming authority, and the women accompanying him were equally intimidating. The petite orange-haired girl's narrow eyes seemed capable of peering straight into every hidden thought they harbored. The icy swordswoman kept her blade drawn beside her while eating. They dared not meet her gaze, for the thick bloodlust emanating from her pale greatsword alone left them breathless. The gray-haired woman seated at the far end of the table was the most intimidating of the group. Standing over 2 meters tall with well-defined, streamlined musculature and sharp fangs lining her jaw, one bite from her would undoubtedly leave a painful wound. Sha rested her chin in her hands atop the table, forcing what she hoped was a friendly smile. Her grin stretched far too wide, revealing rows of sharp shark-like teeth that gave her an unnerving appearance. Traces of fresh blood from the raw meat she had snuck earlier lingered between her teeth and dripped down her lip. Witnessing this sight, the mental defenses of Zhang Long and Zhao Hu crumbled completely. The two clung tightly to one another, trembling in their seats. Could she actually have a taste for raw flesh? Ahem. Shenxiai let out a quiet cough. Sha instantly tensed, reflexively covering her forehead with her hands before slipping quietly into the kitchen out of Shenxi's line of sight. Sha harbored no malicious intent whatsoever. She only wished to be cordial toward Zhang Long and Zhao Hu, hoping to earn her place as Shenxi's most trusted subordinate and enforcer. Building good rapport with fellow faction members was only logical. Relieved the intimidating woman had left their presence, Zhang Long and Zhao Hu shot grateful glances toward Shenxiai. Only the boss could subdue such a fierce subordinate with nothing more than a quiet cough. Zhao Hu picked up his notebook once more. Boss Shenxiai appears cold and unapproachable on the surface, yet I can tell he looks out for all of us. Sha could not comprehend the two men's irrational admiration toward their leader. She had backed down so quickly solely because Shenxiai always flicked her forehead with his full strength whenever she misbehaved, and the pain was genuinely excruciating. Shortly afterward, Sha carried the breakfast platters out to the table, and everyone began to eat. Yu Zhao and the other women ate calmly and leisurely. Zhang Long and Zhao Hu froze in their seats, hesitant to touch their food. Dozens of dishes lined the table across over 100 platters, featuring steamed, pan-fried, stir-fried, and deep-fried delicacies spanning both traditional Eastern breakfast staples and classic Western morning meals. Zhang Long stared blankly, unable to find words to describe the lavish spread. Zhao Hu had already pulled out his notebook to document the moment. Seeing their hesitation to eat, Shenxiai reassured them. It's just simple home cooking. Help yourselves without worry. Zhang Long's eyebrow twitched sharply. If this counted as ordinary home fare, what exactly did that make the expired canned rations they normally survived on? Shenxiai was not intentionally flaunting his wealth. He had intentionally cut 80% of the supernatural ingredients from the meal specifically to avoid drawing too much attention during this private meal. Ever since entering the Sea of Discord, countless edible supernatural aberrations roamed these waters, so supernatural ingredients formed the bulk of their everyday meals aboard the ship. Zhang forced an awkward smile and bit into a meat bun. Tender, flavorful braised pork encased within soft bread soaked with savory broth made for an absolutely perfect bite. It reminded him strongly of home cooking. He washed the meal down with a sip of fresh fruit juice afterward. While Zhang savored the meal slowly, Xiaohu threw himself into eating ravenously. He drained an entire bowl of sweet tofu pudding in one gulp before spearing 5 steak cuts onto his chopsticks, devouring them hungrily regardless of their doneness. He choked violently, his face turning bright red as he struggled to swallow the lodged food. His clumsy predicament drew quiet laughter from everyone seated at the table. Shin Si smiled faintly and handed Xiaohu a glass of faintly glowing green fruit juice. Xiaohu chugged the liquid in large gulps, taking deep breaths until the food slid down his throat and the choking subsided. A strange sensation washed over him the moment he recovered. His body felt flooded with vitality, and the internal injuries he had sustained fighting undead creatures days ago no longer brought any tightness or discomfort to his chest. He had not eaten anything out of the ordinary, only the juice the boss had given him. Xiaohu stared down at the glass with only a tiny pool of glowing green liquid remaining at the bottom, realization dawning on him. This juice had to be pressed from rare supernatural fruits. Xiaohu was instantly overcome with regret upon noticing Zhang Long carefully pouring his own serving of the juice into a prized personal wineskin he kept close to his body. There was no chance he would share even a drop now. Staring at the last traces of juice in his empty glass, Xiaohu's initial dejection morphed into fierce resolve. Boss Shen treated his subordinates with unmatched kindness. He had gifted him a purple rarity special fruit that let him transform into a giant tiger once before, and now this restorative juice capable of healing wounds and replenishing stamina. He could never hope to repay such kindness. Loyalty was the only way he could repay this debt. The breakfast meal concluded soon after. Xiaohu trailed closely behind Shin Si with his notebook in hand. Acting as the designated attendant sent over by Zhang Long, he knew his place well, observing only what he was permitted to see and never asking unnecessary questions. He would act as nothing more than a quiet attendant for the boss. His thoughtful sense of propriety earned Shin Si's quiet approval. Men with such good judgment would always thrive no matter what hardships they faced. That island dead ahead is our first target. Wait here for me while I go escort the faction scouts stationed there away from the shore. Very well, go ahead. Shin Si nodded, gazing out toward the empty stretch of open sea. Shortly afterward, a coordinate message paired with a photo arrived from Zhang Long. The image captured Zhang Long leading the group of survivor scouts away from the island shores. Shin Si navigated the devil to the marked coordinates. A small village sat atop the islet, with half-ghouls disguised as ordinary villagers mending fishing nets and repairing small boats along the coastline. He saw no reason to waste precious time clearing the area manually. The Sea God cannon loaded with cluster warheads roared to life. The cluster munitions detonated above the island, unleashing swarms of miniature high-explosive charges that tore across every inch of land. The entire island descended into ruin. Only a handful of high-ranking half-ghouls clung to life amid the wreckage, swiftly eliminated by invisible wind blades summoned by Shin Si. He activated his book fruit ability to absorb all scattered spoils into his collection space. There was no time to pause and marvel at the scene. The main force of Shin Si's crew now stepped forward to handle the remaining islands. For larger landmasses, Shin Si assigned his crew members to engage the half-ghoul hordes in direct combat. Shin Si partnered up with Njin during these operations. He hovered high above the battlefield to oversee the overall situation, while Njin handled frontline combat against the abominations on land. Among the 4 core crew members of the Devil, Njin possessed the weakest combat aptitude, driving her to push herself relentlessly to avoid becoming a burden to the group. A Tier 2 half-ghoul lunged at Njin from her blind side. Xiaohu immediately triggered his beast transformation, morphing into a massive orange feline 3 meters long and standing as tall as an adult human. He bared his sharp claws, ready to intercept the attack. A sudden surge of wind lifted him off the ground before he could move. Stand back and watch only. Shin Si pressed a finger to his lips in a quiet shushing gesture. The giant feline Xiaohu mewed twice in acknowledgement. Down on the ground, Njin dodged the ghoul's ambush by a narrow margin. She raised her adjudicator revolver and pulled the trigger, the bullet piercing straight through the creature's forehead. Bonus skill, Holy Judgment activated. Target eliminated. Shin Si had entrusted the adjudicator revolver to Njin. Combined with her innate luck that boosted critical strike odds, the weapon became devastatingly overpowered. In this fashion, over 100 half-ghouls on the island perished instantly and painless. The observing scouts watched in stunned disbelief. The boss simply gave the order, and his subordinate eliminated every foe with a single shot. If Jin's causality-based strikes were cold and efficient, the fights waged by Yu Zhao and Xia were a spectacle of raw, visceral combat. Yu Zhao's swordplay was elegant yet lethal, each precise swing claiming another monster's life. Xia embodied pure, brutal combat aesthetics. She fired rocket launchers with reckless abandon like celebratory fireworks, the sound of explosions never ceasing from the moment she set foot on land. Any ghouls lucky enough to survive the blasts faced a ferocious fighter who traded blows recklessly with her foes. Her giant battle axe blurred through the air with every ferocious swing. By the end of the day's battles, Xiao stood completely numb, unable to pinpoint exactly when he had departed the devil's deck. Every memory in his mind was filled with the breathtaking, overwhelming combat displays of Shen Ci and his companions. He cradled his head in his hands, murmuring under his breath at the sheer ferocity of the fight. Zhang Long took Xiao Hu's place aboard the Devil the following morning. Thin crimson fog drifted across the ocean surface that day. Due to the sanity drain caused by prolonged exposure to the mist, the scouts only managed to submit coordinates for 2 new islands. The Devil drew near a large island when faint chanting echoed across the seawater. A nun covered in fleshy growths floated toward them atop a small vessel crafted entirely from congealed flesh. Eerie chanting echoes in the air. SAN value decreased, even wrapped in the glow of the soul-stabilizing lantern given by Shen Ci. Zhang Long could not stop his SAN value from slipping away. "Leave now, both of you." The moment Shen Ci spoke, Zhang Long and Xiao Hu felt as though a great weight had been lifted off their shoulders, fleeing at top speed without hesitation. As the ominous presence drew nearer, the flesh boat fully revealed its grotesque form. Constructed entirely from raw, crimson flesh, the hull sprouted all manner of organic tissue, bulging eyes, dangling arms, matted tufts of hair scattered across its surface. A nun stood atop the vessel, her features hidden beneath a hood. Writhing granulation tissue spread across every inch of exposed skin. In one hand, she clutched a wicker basket dyed sickly green, inside which a restless fleshy mass squirmed relentlessly. Flesh-bearing nun race. Human parasitized rank. Tier 1 skills. Nun. Profile. A wretched young woman whose parents vanished without a trace during her childhood before she was taken in by the state church. She met the love of her life at 18, only for him to perish on the battlefield, which led to her being falsely accused of heresy. Every instinct screamed at Shen Ci that this nun was far more dangerous than she appeared. Just then, the ship's log stored within the cabin drifted over to his side. "My old friend, who is reciting those scriptures?" This chant carries a strangely soothing vibe. The log swiveled toward the nun, hanging motionless mid-air. Its pages froze mid-flutter and ceased all movement entirely. "Could I ask you for a small favor, friend?" "What is it?" "Release this pure nun from her suffering." The log trembled violently before crashing to the deck, going completely inert. There was no question, this abomination had to be eliminated without delay. A lightning spear streaked forward in an instant with a sharp crack. The nun and her basket were instantly engulfed by surging thunderbolts. Wild electricity arced across her body, charring and disintegrating her hood to unveil a bizarre face beneath. Her skin was pale fair with a faint rosy blush across her cheeks, her eyes squeezed shut while soft benevolence lingered in her brows. Her nasal cavity had been torn away, replaced by dense clusters of fine red fuzz. This woman must have been an innocent, kind-hearted girl long before misfortune befell her. Now she existed solely as a monster. The only mercy Shen Ci could grant her was a peaceful end. The basket shattered under the force of lightning, freeing the fleshy tumor within. The mass lunged straight for the nun, who stood passively awaiting her demise. "Eh!" A shrill, agonizing scream tore through the air as the nun was swallowed whole by the rapidly multiplying tumor. Silence fell shortly afterward. 10 million volts, Thor's hammer. A towering pillar of lightning raged for 3 full seconds, and Shen Ci only retracted his attack once the system notified him of the kill. Ever since his brutal battle against corrupted worshippers on Bloodbath Island, Shen Ci had learned his lesson. Whenever foes enter a weakened second phase, strike while they are vulnerable to finish them off for good. Tier 3 aberrant creature flesh-bearing nun eliminated. Mission progress, +5. Obtained a farewell letter, written by the young woman for her beloved. The second the mission progress updated, the ship's log floated upward once more. Its pages flipped frantically to display twisted, incomprehensible runes. The vessel's core processed the markings and translated them into 4 sets of geographic coordinates. Shensi had no intention of heading straight for these destinations. If the tumor-wrapped nun already possessed Tier 3 strength, he dared not fathom how powerful the monsters waiting ahead would be. Instead, he set about purging every minor islet across the surrounding waters. For days slipped by in the blink of an eye. Every crew member aboard the demon vessel had grown noticeably stronger over this period. Shensi and Njin both successfully advanced their tiers, with Yu Zhao also attaining a promotion. Upon advancing to Tier 3, Shensi's occupational skill Gluttonous Appetite evolved into phagocytic cells. Occupational skill, phagocytic cells, absorb all cells and foreign matter entering the body and convert them into stored energy reserves. Reserves will automatically replenish stamina whenever stamina values drop. Maximum energy storage, 500. This brought Shensi's total stamina pool to 160 plus 500, nearly hitting 700 stamina points in total, triple the stamina of ordinary professionals of the same rank. Through repeated testing, Shensi also discovered drastically improved resistance against the red mist. He suspected the phagocytic cells broke down mutated cells accumulating inside his body continuously. If this rate of improvement persisted, reaching the pinnacle of professional power might grant him complete immunity to all forms of corruption. And Jin's occupational skill also underwent a full transformation. Occupational skill, Mirror of Foresight. Spend mana to peer into fragmented glimpses of the future. May target one's own fate or that of other specified individuals. This ability was overwhelmingly overpowered. Previously, Shensi had to piece together and analyze the vague foresight intel Njin provided. Now clear, direct scenes of coming events manifested before their eyes automatically. Yu Zhao climbed to Tier 2, yet his true combat strength could not be measured by tier rankings alone. He spent nearly every waking moment inside the combat simulation chamber ever since it was installed on the ship. Shensi secretly watched recorded footage of Yu Zhao clashing against the Kraken in simulation runs. The two combatants were locked in a stalemate, unable to land a decisive blow on one another. The Kraken boasted high physical defense paired with rapid regenerative abilities. Without instantly obliterating it, the beast could sustain itself indefinitely through healing. Meanwhile, the blood blade Yu Zhao wielded dealt devastating damage, and the blood sword Qi unleashed following each strike cleanly sliced through the Kraken's massive tentacles with effortless ease. As a life-class professional, Shasha's combat prowess scaled directly with the quantity of aberrant creatures she consumed. After gorging relentlessly on monsters since boarding the vessel, she too broke through to Tier 3. Her combat effectiveness would rise even further if battles took place within seawater environments. Compared to their arrival in the turbulent seas, the overall fighting capacity of everyone on the demon vessel had effectively doubled. After days of looting countless islets, Shensi's storage warehouse was once again crammed to bursting point. Unlike previous stockpiles filled with combat supplies, this haul consisted mainly of stacks upon stacks of written tomes, alongside small quantities of high-grade materials and massive stockpiles of basic resources. Detected basic resources valued at 100,000 nautical coins. Confirm sellback to the mall? Confirm. With a wave of his hand, nearly 10,000 batches of basic materials were liquidated via the system store. Obtain times 100,000 nautical coins. A faint smile tugged at Shensi's lips as he surveyed his current wealth. The player ranked 990th on the global leaderboard, Feng Xiao, could only scrape together a total fortune worth 10,000 nautical coins in total. Shensi had amassed 10 times that amount purely by scavenging deserted islands shortly after entering the turbulent seas. Nautical coins held immense practical value, with them all stocked with every conceivable supply imaginable. Shensi had even spotted a mythic tier piece of equipment listed for sale within its inventory. Wealth equated to unlimited purchasing power within this market. The enhancement scrolls critical to Shensi's own power growth were available for purchase in the mall, albeit at a steep price of 1,000 nautical coins apiece. This was no longer the tranquil initial sea. Here in the turbulent seas, warfare and bloodshed were constant. Power gaps between top-ranked fighters on the leaderboard remained relatively narrow, making enhancement scrolls a decisive advantage in skirmishes. Though the mall's pricing made Shensi hesitate heavily, he had collected a total of 150 enhancement scrolls from clearing more than 200 islands. This stockpile formed his core source of confidence moving forward. Now ready to pursue the 4 marked coordinates, Shensi gritted his teeth and purchased the blueprint for automated emplacement turrets. Automated emplacement turret quality. Purple E rare function. Paired with ship radar to autonomously identify hostile targets and open fire. Firing rate reaches 300 rounds per second, capable of inflicting effective damage against all creatures Tier 3 and below. With every outlying small and medium island fully purged, Zhonglong, Zhaohu, and the remaining Black Alliance members departed to continue their own operations. Under Shinxi's leadership these past days, the Black Alliance forces had reaped abundant rewards and resources. The 9 brutes of the Black Alliance, members who had eaten standard animal-type devil fruits, had all upgraded their vessels to Tier 3. Their overall strength was roughly equivalent to the former Steel Brotherhood faction, ranking as a mid-low tier 4th-rate force within the turbulent seas. A newly risen faction of this caliber should have sparked widespread discussion among surviving players across regional chat channels. Out of collective deference to Shinxi's preference for low-profile operations, every member of the Black Alliance maintained strict silence about their exploits. Black Alliance 9 Brutes Group Chat. Zhaohu. Everyone, I'm pleased to announce our current assignment has been fully completed. Our next objectives are personal strength advancement and gathering intelligence for our leader. I will compile all collected information and submit a consolidated report to Lord Shinxi regularly. Never forget who granted us our current power and prosperity. All 9 members, boundless loyalty. Elsewhere, Shinxi sailed for a large island according to the coordinates recorded in the ship's log. The log, which had revealed its sentient identity as Sig, had grown far more active as Shinxi raised his mission completion progress. Sig itself could not define its true nature, whether it was a book awakened to sentience or a spirit bonded to the pages. No system panel could shed light on its origins either. It swayed back and forth mid-air beside Shinxi, mimicking the way humans shake their heads while straining to recall fragmented memories. My memories are fragmented and fuzzy. All I can tell you is the island's priest holds a token required to unlock Dawn Isle. You must fulfill his request to claim the relic. That is all the information I can share with you. Do not forget to gaze up at the night sky tonight, and make sure the roasted meat is well done, so that Sig had become rambling and overly talkative ever since developing self-awareness. Before it could launch into another long-winded tangent, Shinxi sealed the log away inside his spatial ring. Finally, peace and quiet. He chose to comply with the priest's demands first rather than resort to immediate violence to obtain the token. Under the cover of moonlight, Shinxi and his crew snuck onto the island. Human presence was sparse across the land, with only scattered semi-corpse ghouls wandering the streets. Shasha had memorized the unique stench left behind by the flesh-bearing nun, allowing the group to locate the church building without delay. The church clergy did not bar their entry and guided the party toward the rear courtyard of the chapel. The entire structure exuded a warped sense of holiness tangled with grotesque abnormality. Mirror-smooth stone floors sprouted carpets woven from thick fibrous flesh. Prayer benches for worshippers were carved from animal rib cages. Eyes dotted the wooden entrance doors, only swinging open for individuals the entity recognized as trustworthy. The clergyman brought over several fleshy, malformed chairs for the visitors to sit upon. Shinxi massaged his temples and declined to take a seat. SAN value 1 upon viewing the flesh-constructed seating. The nun's haunting chant echoed once again, and a colossal mound of rotting flesh standing 5 meters tall slowly materialized before them. Rotting flesh priest race. Human symbiotically fused with an otherworldly entity rank. Tier 3 skill. Corrosive flesh. The priest can regenerate flesh endlessly. Granulation tissue released from his body infects all living beings, triggering uncontrolled tissue proliferation and bodily decay. Profile. A monster bonded symbiotically with Shoggoth coral, possessing near unmatched vitality that makes permanent elimination extremely difficult. Travelers from distant shores, would you grant me 3 simple wishes? The priest rumbled, the putrid stench of decaying flesh flooding the courtyard with every syllable he spoke. And Jean and the other girls clamped their noses shut instantly. Shinxi waved a hand to disperse the foul odor drifting through the air. Shinxi nodded impatiently. How many decades has this rotten flesh been left to fester? I swear once I get my hands on that token, I'll blast this abomination with a full lightning discharge. I have not tasted a proper meal in ages. Craft a dish satisfactory to my palate, and I shall hand over the token. Preparing fine cuisine was a trivial task for their group. Before Shinxi could reply, Shasha laid out her cookware, lit the stove, and began assembling ingredients for a Western cream soup. As the member with the sharpest sense of smell, Shasha had suffered terribly from the priest's revolting breath and could not wait to leave this horrid building as soon as possible. Damn this heap of decaying meat. If our leader did not need that token, I would have hacked this creature into mincemeat ages ago. She quickly prepared a full Western-style dinner spread. Appetizer: smoked long-legged sardines paired with deep-fried octopus with human-like facial features. Soup: cream broth simmered with two-headed sand crabs. The elongated limbs of the fried sardines curled into menacing shapes, while the two crab heads floated atop the thick, creamy soup broth. Though the meal was visually grotesque enough to erode anyone's sanity, the priest savored every bite with great relish. A nun climbed a tall ladder to wipe residue from the priest's mouth after he finished eating. These dishes carry distinct flavors. I am quite pleased with this meal. Does this count as your first wish fulfilled? Shinseai asked. The priest gave a slow nod. Shinseai gestured for him to hand over the token immediately. Not quite. This alone is insufficient to satisfy my desires. I have run short of raw materials to craft more flesh constructs. Leave one of your group to serve as crafting material, and the token is yours. One person is far too little. We will all stay here to serve you. Rage flared hot within Shinsei's fists. In all his time surviving across the ocean realms, he had never endured such blatant provocation. I have tolerated you long enough. Forget the token. I aim only to destroy you here and now. Hurricane winds tore the church roof clean off, while unrelenting bolts of lightning slammed relentlessly into the ground below. Lightning shattered the chapel structure entirely, with gale-force winds scattering rubble across the whole island and laying waste to the surrounding terrain. Shinsei and his companions surrounded the rotting flesh priest, unleashing their full offensive capabilities against the monster. Lightning burns scarred the priest's body, and half his torso was sliced clean through by Yu Zhao's blade. Writhing flesh fibers immediately repaired the damage, sprouting misshapen limbs across his exterior to replace lost tissue. This cannot be right. I am a priest ordained by the Pope. Everything upon this island belongs to me. Seems my attacks were far too gentle if you still have breath to speak, Shinsei retorted coldly. Shasha fired a skull-mounted rocket launcher directly into the priest's face. And Jean holstered her judgment firearm to prevent the creature from dying prematurely before the group finished venting their anger. Half an hour later, Shinsei fully restored his stamina and energy reserves effortlessly via his phagocytic cells ability. And Jean, what does fortune favor for us today? Great fortune. All endeavors shall proceed without hindrance. Perfect. Shin emptied his entire energy reserve into a fully charged Thor's hammer strike. Engulfed by blinding lightning, the priest faded away with a look of serene relief fixed upon his face. Rotting flesh priest eliminated. Obtain ×1 token of the Loomis royal capital. Shinsei twisted his lips into a malicious grin as he clutched the gently glowing token in his palm. Sig. The sentient book fled frantically through the open skies above the large island, chased by whips condensed from crackling lightning bolts. My friend, my memories are fragmented and incomplete. This was never my fault. A lightning net sealed off every escape route for Sig. Shinsei only ceased his assault once thin wisps of smoke curled up from the book's pages. For Shinsei, any problem solvable through brute force was never truly a problem. He tracked down and eliminated the remaining 3 priests across separate islands to gather the full set of capital tokens. Detected supplies valued at 100,000 nautical coins. Confirm sellback to them all. Confirm. An extra 100,000 nautical coins was added to his balance, a sum exceeding the total wealth accumulated by many veteran sea survivors solely from clearing peripheral islands. Dawn Isle housed the royal capital of the Loomis Kingdom, concealing unimaginable wealth within its borders. Opportunity always walked hand in hand with deadly peril. To eliminate unnecessary risks, Shinsei splurged heavily on supplies from the system mall. He spent 40,000 nautical coins purchasing all materials required for the demon vessel's next major upgrade. Vessel upgrade requirements met. Confirm vessel upgrade? Confirm. Consume materials. Enhancement scroll ×100, timber ×800, iron ingot ×400, copper ingot ×200, mechanical component ×200, aberrant creature core ×150. Tier 1 timber ×200 upgrade successful. Current vessel tier, LV.5. Vessel profile name, Demon Vessel tier, LV.5 owner, Shinsei crew members, and Jean, Shasha, Yu Zhao affiliated faction, Black Alliance. Length, 100 meters displacement, 500 tons base speed, 80 knots defense rating, 8,000 immune to attacks launched by all Tier 3 creatures. Magic resistance, 500 vessels with magic resistance can block sorcery attacks, maddening chance, and environmental corruption durability. 100 installed equipment, 8 automated artillery emplacements, 50,000 rounds reserve ammunition, mid-tier radar, equipment fabrication station, automated garment printer, combat simulation chamber, and additional functional modules. Unique trait, Devour Evolve. Constructed from special composite materials, the vessel may consume any substance it touches to achieve permanent evolutionary growth. System evaluation. You have finally adapted to the harsh rules of the turbulent seas. Even with a Tier 5 vessel, you remain trivial prey in the eyes of true top-tier powerhouses. The vessel stretched a full 100 meters in length, comparable in scale to many small landmasses. Even amid violent ocean storms, the upgraded Demon vessel sailed steadily, without rocking violently across choppy waves, no longer requiring Shinsei to activate his wind fruit abilities for stabilization. Vessel upgrade complete. Reward obtained. Perfect grade animal type, Mythical Zoan Devil Fruit Mystery Box Note. Mythical Zoan Devil Fruits vary drastically in power, hence distribution takes the form of sealed mystery boxes. Consumers randomly gain the abilities of mythical beasts outside standard natural ecosystems, ranging from primordial god beasts down to niche special ability variants. Shinsei stared at the question mark labeled fruit box with conflicted emotions. Consuming it risked rolling an underwhelming, useless mythical Zoan ability. Leaving it unclaimed left him plagued with restless curiosity. And Jean, check my fortune reading for right now. Neutral fortune, no disasters nor lucky breakthroughs predicted. Shinsei relaxed and stowed the box safely, resolving to open it on a day marked with auspicious fortune readings. This was the overwhelming strength of Jin's fate divination ability. It turned pure luck-based gambles into calculated high-probability decisions. With an entire city of semi-corpse ghouls poised as potential hostiles upon Dawn Isle, Shinsei spent an additional 20,000 nautical coins purchasing supplementary weaponry and gear from other surviving players. System mall goods carried a markup of roughly 1/3 compared to peer-to-peer player trades. Mall purchases guaranteed consistent, certified quality with unlimited inventory options, while private player trades delivered significant cost savings. Shopping via the official mall equated to premium comfort. Sourcing goods from other players was practical cost-saving living. Spent 5,000 nautical coins to acquire ×1 Sanskrit Purifying Gatling Gun. Sanskrit Purifying Gatling Gun quality. Purple, a rare passive ability. Sanskrit Purification. Every bullet fired carries sacred Sanskrit energy. Shots deal an extra 20 spell damage against aberrant creatures and bypass all physical defensive barriers. Spent 15,000 nautical coins to acquire ×3 storage pouches. Storage pouch quality. Purple, a rare internal storage space. An area equivalent to a full basketball court per pouch. All preparations were finalized. Shinsei, Yu Zhao and Shasha geared up and set foot on Dawn Isle. And Jean remained aboard the Demon vessel to deliver long-range artillery fire support at any given moment. If the city swarmed with hostiles, the Poseidon cannon would level the entire district in one blast. Much like Nightfall Isle, Dawn Isle bore no trace of sunlight despite its name, shrouded in a murky, gray-black haze. Visibility was not fully obscured, allowing the group to discern churning white waves crashing against the shoreline sands. The island was a barren, rocky landmass, with the royal capital built at its geographic center beneath a massive umbrella-shaped superstructure that blanketed the entire city under its shadow. The three travelers donned full black cloaks that concealed their entire bodies, leaving only their eyes exposed to the outside world. Society within the royal capital functioned drastically differently from other locations. Semi-corpse ghouls roamed the streets openly with their true forms fully visible. One could witness elderly ghouls being assisted to their feet by younger members of their kind, and ghoul matrons haggling fiercely with street vendors over commodity prices. These abominations had built a complete social structure mirroring human civilization, emulating human daily behavior and community norms in every respect. If not for their diet consisting solely of corrupted flesh, Shinsei might have hesitated to strike them down without mercy. Instead of eliminating 10 foes with each swing, he settled for taking down 5 per blow. An apprentice-cloaked semi-corpse ghoul sprinted hurriedly past Shinsei, dropping an object onto the ground in its rush. Shinsei bent down to pick up the fallen item for the ghoul. The creature rubbed its pale skull with sharp clawed fingers and expressed sincere gratitude toward Shinsei. The instant their eyes met, the ghoul noticed the stark difference between Shinsei's irises and those of native island ghouls. "Kind stranger, pardon my abrupt question. Are you visitors arriving from outer islands?" Shinsei gave a silent nod in response. "That is wonderful news for us outsiders. Would you spare a moment to look over my architectural blueprints for residential construction? Dawn Isle has been sealed off for ages. I'm curious about the architectural design of the outer islands. Shinseai took the manuscript into his hands. An elderly half-ghoul walked up behind the young apprentice half-ghoul. The old half-ghoul wore a pair of spectacles and kept a wisp of white beard on his chin to project an air of erudition. He pinched the apprentice's ear and chided him angrily. What have I taught you all this time? Show proper courtesy to distinguished guests. You had the audacity to hand your shoddy manuscripts to a stranger upon first meeting them. Do not claim Old York as your mentor ever again once you step out into the world. After reprimanding the apprentice, the elder half-ghoul twisted toward Shinseai and his companions, his features softening into an obsequious smile. Visitors from the outer islands, would you care to join me for afternoon tea in my workshop? The phrase, outer islands, carried an almost supernatural pull, immediately drawing every half-ghoul in the vicinity to gather around them. Shinsei's group dropped their pretense and tossed aside their black cloaks. A murmur rippled through the crowd of half-ghouls as they whispered amongst themselves. They studied the three newcomers' appearances much the way humans would comment on one another's looks. Even so, a ravenous hunger for fresh flesh lingered plainly within their gazes. The crowd of half-ghouls swelled larger and larger, eventually catching the attention of the city's law enforcement half-ghoul patrols. Several high-tier second-order half-ghouls escorted Shinseai and his two companions to the royal castle. A group of refined, well-dressed half-ghouls stood behind a pane of glass, engaged in hushed discussion. Moments later, a far taller half-ghoul strode into the reception hall. Yu Zhao locked eyes with him for a split second, instantly recognizing a fellow master swordsman. The half-ghoul king snapped his fingers, and two half-ghoul maidens entered the hall, swiftly arranging an opulent feast across the table. This spread was the height of luxury by half-ghoul standards, yet the dishes were entirely unpalatable to Shinseai and his allies. Raw flesh writhed atop the plates, garnished with fine seasonings and delicate decorations, painting an utterly grotesque, surreal scene before their eyes. The half-ghoul gestured for the trio to take their seats, and the banquet commenced. Surprisingly, he paid no mind to whether the humans ate the meal laid out before them. He behaved with the grace of a true noble determined not to embarrass his guests. Once the dinner concluded, Shinsei's party was given lodging on the castle's second floor. Late that night, Shinsei leaned against his bedroom window, staring out into the dark. Ever since entering the castle, he had felt a persistent sense of being watched, and this surveillance did not stem from their royal host. It emanated directly from the direction of the island's church. Shinsei retrieved Sigma from his storage pouch. The book lay motionless on the table, feigning death. It had been sulking ever since Shinsei disciplined it for supplying faulty intelligence previously. 3 servings of Starry Reverie pastries. Sigma's pages twitched faintly at the sound of his voice. Make it 5, and that is my final offer. You agreed. I want the premium version of Starry Reverie. The filling has to be ground sea slugs, cooked until thick and chewy for the perfect bouncy texture. Deal. Shinsei pointed toward the distant church and spoke to Sigma. Dig through your fragmented memories and pull up any visions tied to that church. Just recount the scenes exactly as you saw them. Keep your personal judgments out of it. Leave it to me, my friend. You have my word. Sigma's pages flipped rapidly as hazy memories resurfaced within its consciousness. In the memory, a noble young man clad in regal robes lay peacefully inside a stone coffin. Sigma stretched its gnarled, paper hands to brush the young man's forehead, and the air echoed with endless weeping. The scene shifted abruptly to 2 elderly men clad in plain robes, locked in a heated argument. Loomis, can you not see the truth? We will all grow old and fade one day. When we are gone, who will be left to rule this kingdom? Only by transforming into aberrant monsters can we grasp eternal life and boundless power. Young Loomis's death was meant to be a harsh warning for us all. If us elders had not weakened with age and retained our former strength, young Loomis would never have perished. Beyond that, we could have pushed further still, ventured across the demon straits to uncover the secret of resurrection. The vision warped once more. The king stood atop a pitch-black magic array sheathed in ornate plate armor. As the array activated, shadow blanketed the entire capital, and the screams of the island's citizens echoed across every corner of Dawn Isle. The king came to his senses at the last moment and unleashed his innate soul ability to force the ritual to a halt. The backlash incinerated most of his soul essence, leaving only a wisp of his soul adrift with no known whereabouts. Sigma trembled violently from cover to cover, its pages fraying and beginning to disintegrate as it endured immense agony to relay every frame of the memory. The book clattered onto the stone floor, a fresh crack splitting its hard cover. No matter how Shinsei called out to it, Sigma fell completely silent. Shinsei exchanged supplies from his system shop, soul-nourishing tonics and injury-repairing consumables, pouring every last restorative item he had on hand into healing Sigma's wounds as a last-ditch effort. He sent a private message to Yu Zhao and Sasha, instructing the pair to take turns standing guard through the night and stay vigilant against any danger. Meanwhile, darkness permanently veiled Dawn Isle, blurring any distinction between day and night entirely. Back inside the royal castle, the towering half-ghoul king set off for the church the moment the midnight bell tolled. Unlike the castle perched on the island's highest peak, the church sat nestled within a low-lying hollow basin. The surrounding dwellings grew sparser the closer one drew to the sacred building. The half-ghoul king trekked along the winding path, his gaze drifting over his surroundings with a tangled mix of sorrow and conflict etched across his features. Fluorite lanterns bathed the entire church in soft radiance, the only place on all of Dawn Isle truly worthy of the island's namesake. The king stepped into the church and bowed respectfully toward an elderly man seated upon the papal throne. Contrary to expectations, the figure on the throne was neither a blood fiend nor a half-vampire, but an ordinary human being. A bald, elderly man well into his 60s, whose demeanor and movements radiated an air of gentle benevolence. How much longer until the ritual preparations are finished? Very soon now. All arrangements will be complete in no more than 3 days. Were those 3 humans deliberately lured onto my island by your doing? I was. The ritual demands a massive reservoir of flesh and blood energy. Those 3 possess formidable cultivation levels. Having them as reserves eliminates any risk of failure. Very well. I place all matters in your hands, my dear nephew. I have full faith in you. Once their conversation ended, the half-ghoul king departed the church. The Pope rose to his feet and wandered the empty sanctuary alone. He walked to the altar holding the Holy Scripture and tossed the book aside without the slightest reverence. A low rumble shook the ground, revealing a concealed passageway beneath the stone floor. The Pope discarded his ceremonial staff and descended step by step into the tunnel. As he ventured deeper underground, his aged frame gradually shed its frailty. It reshaped into a tall, vigorous physique. The tunnel opened into a vast underground cavern dimly lit by pale white flames burning along the stone walls. Piles of deceased survivors littered the ground, surrounding a central obsidian altar carved full of eerie runic markings. The kindly old Pope had transformed into a brooding middle-aged man draped in a black robe. He stared down at the wrinkled skin on his palms, his eyes blazing with unbridled greed. Over the next 3 days, the half-ghoul king escorted Shinsei and his companions on a full tour of the royal capital. Both sides maintained an unspoken truce, neither making any probing moves against one another. The stalemate dragged on with 0 noticeable developments, a slow torment wearing on everyone's nerves. During these days, Shinsei repeatedly checked in Jin's fortune, only receiving readings of moderate luck or neutral fate each time. By dusk on the 3rd day, Shinsei messaged Yu Zhao and Sasha as usual to heighten their alertness. Trouble struck immediately after he sent the message. Yu Zhao never sent a reply, no matter how long Shinsei waited. Shinsei donned his shadow bat blood armor and prepared to leave his quarters to investigate, when a brutal shock slammed into his mind, bringing a wave of crippling dizziness crashing over him. When he regained consciousness, he found himself laid out atop the altar, bound to stone pillars alongside Yu Zhao and Sasha by tangible black energy. Rows of half-ghouls knelt prostrate at the altar's base, chanting monotonous, unholy scriptures in unison. Summoning altar status, inactive awaiting activation function, offer sacrificial vessels to manifest an outer god's avatar. Ordinary living beings exposed to the outer god's aura will be mutated into aberrant monsters. The Pope retained his saintly facade as he stood above the altar, weaving ancient forbidden magic with a sorrowful, compassionate expression plastered across his face. The summoning altar roared to life. Shinsei could feel every ounce of his bodily power being violently drained away. He could not afford to wait passively for his fate to unfold. Bracing for the agony of fractured fingers, Shinsei forced his wrists to contort, tearing open a spatial rift at the cost of severe hand injuries. 3 grimoires burst forth from the rift, floating above the heads of the 3 captives. The book fruit ability activated instantly. It yanked the small area surrounding the trio into the book's inner world. A sharp tearing sound split the air as the dark bindings restraining Shinseai shattered completely. The three emerged from the book realm with ease, their two-dimensional cartoon forms solidifying back into physical, three-dimensional bodies. Sasha drew her sonic Gatling gun and unleashed a hail of bullets across the surrounding horde. The half-ghoul king raised his longsword, commanding legions of ghoul knights to charge forward without hesitation. Full-scale warfare was inevitable now. Shall we strike head-on immediately? Would you not care to learn why I targeted you in the first place? The half-ghoul king questioned. There is no longer any point in explanations. All I desire now is your death. Shinseai fell silent and hurled a thunder spear straight toward the half-ghoul king. The Pope waved his staff to intercept the attack on the king's behalf. The king gripped twin blades and lunged at Shinseai, only to be blocked mid-charge by Yu Zhao's sword strike. The battlefield split into three clear duels, Shinseai against the Pope, Yu Zhao clashing with the half-ghoul king, and Sasha clearing out the swarming lesser foes. The Pope conjured an energy barrier to deflect invisible wind blades, every slash harmlessly bouncing off his shield. A smug look crossed his face as he judged his opponent. This supposed descendant was far weaker than anticipated. He had assumed the intruder ranked 6th or 7th order, yet it was clear he only possessed some sort of powerful relic to break free of the summoning ritual's bindings. The Pope lifted his staff and began chanting incantations. Golden chains materialized on both sides to assault Shinseai. These attacks were purely mystical in nature and could not be evaded through elemental intangibility. Shinseai summoned a swirling wind field to retreat hastily out of range. The elderly Pope was surprisingly formidable despite his advanced age. Shinseai had no patience for a prolonged back-and-forth battle. The altar powering the dark ritual remained the gravest threat on the battlefield. He swept both hands outward, launching two tightly compressed tornadoes spiraling toward the ritual altar. Even the Leviathan Kraken would be torn apart by such storm force, yet the altar stood entirely unscathed upon impact. Panic flared within the Pope when he witnessed Shinseai's attempt to destroy the altar. He gripped his staff tightly. He gathered a massive sphere of golden energy at its tip. The orb hurtled toward Shinseai, who made no move to dodge. 10 million volts, Mjolnir strike activated without hesitation. Devastating lightning tore through the underground church and engulfed both the energy orb and Shinseai within a towering thunder pillar. A moment later, a wisp of lightning peeled away from the pillar and solidified back into Shinseai's physical form. Bloodthirsty, continuous slash. Lion's heavy cleave. Yu Zhao traded blows with the half-ghoul king before pulling back to reassess his opponent. Blood streamed down Yu Zhao's sword-wielding hands, only to be instantly mended by the life-stealing properties of his bloodblade. The half-ghoul king stared in horror at his own blade, its edge chipped and cracked from just a single exchange. His sword was high-tier, orange-quality equipment. For it to sustain damage so easily, it meant his foe's weapon had to be either a red legend grade or golden myth grade artifact. A strange sense of lightness washed over the king's body all at once. Perhaps these descendants are capable of accomplishing what no one else can. Yu Zhao pressed his assault with relentless sharpness, forcing the king to raise his sword in a desperate block. Rapid gunfire echoed non-stop as Sasha's sonic Gatling gun poured unceasing fire into the enemy ranks. She flashed her signature shark-like grin, her irises glowing a blood-red shade as battle frenzy took hold. Wave after wave of charging half-ghouls collapsed in heaps before her firepower. This is exhilarating. This is what true large-scale combat ought to feel like. Stand firm at my post, and no foe shall pass. Back to Shinseai's confrontation with the Pope. Even after two devastating ultimate attacks, the altar remained completely intact. Shinseai abandoned his reckless assault on the structure and revised his strategy. If the altar could not be destroyed, then he would eliminate the ritual's conductor instead. A cold, malicious smirk tugged at Shinseai's lips as he locked onto the battered Pope. I wonder how well an old man like you can withstand a blast of lightning. Countless arcs of electricity snaked across the ground, coalescing into thunder spears aimed at the Pope. The cleric raised his staff to brace for impact, but the spears abruptly reversed course to seal off every possible escape route the Pope could take. A colossal lightning pillar crashed straight down onto his position. Once the smoke cleared, a black-cloaked middle-aged man rose slowly from the charred crater. His upper torso bare with scorched black skin marking the heavy toll the lightning strike had taken on his body. You damned brat. Why force me to reveal my true form in front of all my followers? Descendant, you will die here today. Dark energy coated the Pope's hands as he blurred across the distance to close in on Shen Si in an instant. Shen Si stood rooted in place with a dismissive sneer. Deathstorm. The Pope fully expected to tear the overconfident descendant to shreds, only to be seized and dragged helplessly by the raging tornado. He was unable to advance a single step forward. The Pope gained zero ground against Shen Si whatsoever. Meanwhile, the half-ghoul king fared no better in his duel. Yu Zhao quickly deciphered every pattern in his swordsmanship. Victory was only a matter of time. The king parried Yu Zhao's strike and swept his gaze over the devastated battlefield, watching countless half-ghoul subjects perish in agony. Grief and rage flooded his mind all at once. The summoning ritual was nearly complete, and none of this carnage was ever meant to happen. Driven to desperation, the king sprinted straight for the altar and planted himself at the ritual's core node. Black energy crawled up his body, siphoning his life force at an accelerated pace to fuel the ritual. The Pope, beaten and weakened by Shen Si's attacks, watched the scene ignited with fanatical fervor. This was exactly the outcome he had coveted. His nephew young Loomis was far more pliable than his indecisive father had ever been. He was the Pope of the Loomis kingdom, mentor to two successive monarchs, holding authority second only to the crown itself. Yet this status was never what he truly craved. As a man obsessed with the pursuit of forbidden knowledge, eternal lifespan and boundless arcane wisdom were his sole obsessions. It was he who guided Loomis to establish the kingdom. It was he who orchestrated the fake death of young Loomis. Only such tragedy could push Loomis to abandon his moral principles and sacrifice the entire island population to activate the summoning ritual. His original plan had failed, but none of that mattered now. With young Loomis standing upon the altar, Pope Hard would emerge as the ultimate victor. Bolstered by the king's massive life energy, the altar's ritual nears full activation, surging with roiling black power that threatened to tear open the fabric of reality and draw something forth from beyond the void. At that critical moment, Shen Si's storage pouch shook violently. He reached out to retrieve Sigma, the navigational grimoire. Clamped between its pages was a sealed letter. Deliver this letter to him at once. Though confused by the sudden request, Shen Si complied without hesitation. A gentle gust of wind unsealed the envelope, letting a faded sheet of parchment drift down to hover directly before young Loomis's eyes. To my beloved Loomis, my heart perished the day word of your death reached me. Rumors spread among the convent sisters that I was the cause of your demise, a consequence of the gulf in our social standings. I never bothered to refute their claims, for all light had faded from my world long ago. I learned the king intends to enact a ritual to bring you back from the dead. I am of humble origins, yet I understand life can never be reclaimed once lost. Would the soul returned through such dark magic truly still be you? My dearest Loomis, if heaven awaits us, I will wait for you there. If hell is our fate, I will walk into the darkness in your stead. Written forever yours, Anna. The parchment was incinerated into ash by the altar's black energy. Tears of pure relief streamed down young Loomis's face. He drove his own sword through his heart, and his body erupted into a burst of energy. Deprived of its lifeblood fuel, the swarms of black energy scattered aimlessly like ants without a colony, and the overflowing dark power on the altar rapidly receded inward. No, you cannot do this. This is the culmination of my life's work. What right do you have to destroy it? The Pope roared as he charged toward the dimmed altar, running his hands frantically over the faded runic carvings. Uncontrollable fury consumed him entirely. They had been so close to success, so why had everything crumbled apart? He placed all blame on the Loomis bloodline, cursing both father and son as worthless failures. The Pope staggered to his feet and screamed toward the ceiling. Loomis, you were nothing but worthless trash. Without my guidance, you would have been a reviled drifter cast aside by the world. I took you out to sea, forged you into a legendary explorer, raised you to the royal throne. Why could you never abide by my will? I am a grand sage, after all. A deafening detonation shook the cavern as the altar tore free from the ground and floated suspended mid-air. Its runes reignited, twisting into grotesque, vicious shapes as pitch-black power erupted outward once more. This outburst was no longer a controlled buildup of energy, but a violent discharge of force straining against its bindings. The coalesced black energy molded into a massive, distorted dimensional gateway. The fabric of space ripped open, and a tall figure clad in full darkness stepped slowly out from within the rift. The figure wore a tailored black overcoat and a cowboy hat, a permanent strange smirk fixed on his lips with cold, brooding eyes that regarded the mortal world with morbid curiosity for every sight before him. Name: the Dark Man classification, Avatar consciousness. Note: an independent sentient entity born after long years of separation from an outer god's physical avatar. Possesses power inferior to a complete outer god avatar. Rank: unknown. Abilities: unidentified. The man in black scanned his surroundings, his eerie grin widening further. Disguised as a pope to serve your dark ambitions. How intriguing. Speak your wish. He folded his arms across his chest and tilted his head to face the furious pope. I demand an endless lifespan, alongside unrestricted access to every scrap of arcane knowledge in existence. The pope declared anxiously, holding his breath as he waited for a response. He had spent countless hours studying ancient tomes to craft this exact plea. Outer gods inherently look down upon mortal summoners, bound by contractual obligation to grant the summoner's deepest desire, but never in the exact manner the mortal hopes for. If you crave immense power, evil gods will grant it to you. They pour their full might into your body, only for your frame to rupture and burst apart under the overwhelming force. The Pope's pursuit held no such fatal flaw. He sought boundless knowledge that his mind could fully contain and master. The cloaked man tapped his forehead with a fingertip, gathering a strange glow at his digit before flicking the sphere toward the Pope. Staring at the luminescent orb, the Pope trembled with unrestrained excitement. After 100 years of plotting, his plan was finally complete. The light flooded into the Pope's body, refining his flesh and flooding it with vitality, while oceans of knowledge surged into his mind. For a fleeting moment, he felt as if he possessed dominion over the entire world. Then disaster struck without warning. The Pope's body ballooned and twisted grotesquely, swiftly morphing into a colossal mountain fused with flesh and countless books. Despairing, venomous eyes peered out from countless fissures across the abomination. This abrupt and horrific turn forced Shinseai and his two companions to retreat from their battle, standing by to observe and prepare to flee at any second. The situation had spiraled far beyond their capacity to handle. Compared to mission rewards, Shinseai valued his own life far more. Haha, how amusing, utterly fascinating. The cloaked man applauded leisurely. A mocking grin stretched across his face. Who told you I answered your summoning? I came here for him. As he spoke, the cloaked man fixed his gaze directly on Shinseai, who was instantly overcome with mortal dread. Multiple lightning spears materialized out of thin air and streaked toward the cloaked figure. Leveraging the extreme speed granted by his wind fruit, Shinseai grabbed Yu Zhao and Sasha, desperate to escape. The cloaked man swatted the lightning aside with ease, then clenched his palm, pinning the three figures suspended mid-air. Go on then, try using that peculiar spatial ability of yours, the man said in a casual tone. Regardless of the taunt, Shinseai had already resolved to unleash the power of his tree fruit. A grimoire materialized, severing the cloaked man's restraint and freeing the trio once more. 10 million volts, Mjolnir of Thunder. Blood slash, you monster, taste my sonic Gatling fire. In an instant, the three unleashed their most devastating attacks straight at the cloaked man. When the smoke cleared, the man hovered unharmed in the sky. A chilling smile crept onto his face. Solidified black energy instantly coiled around Shinseai and his companions, binding their bodies and dulling their very capacity for rational thought. Is this where it all ends? I refuse to accept this. In mortal peril, Shinseai forced himself to calm down with deep breaths, sorting through every detail from the cloaked man's first appearance to the present moment. The spatial techniques tied to his devil fruit, I understand now. The cloaked man drifted up to Shinseai's position, studying him with evident curiosity. I can tell you're intrigued by my abilities. Release me, and I will demonstrate exactly how I obtained this power. While dangling this bait to hold the man's attention, Shinseai messaged Njin through their private communication channel. Before Shinseai could pose a question, Njin replied in a frantic rush. Your fortune today marks extreme misfortune, the escape hexagram. Your odds of surviving are 1 in 10. A shun, do we still stand a chance? Shinseai ignored the question and issued an order for Njin to fire the sea god cannon at the cloaked man floating overhead. Back to the cloaked man. Fully confident in his overwhelming strength, he loosened the bindings on Shinseai and gestured with an open palm for the demonstration to begin. Drawing in a deep breath, Shinseai retrieved a mythical Zoan blind box from his storage pouch. They claim this hexagram promises certain death, yet heaven leaves one thread of escape amid total annihilation. Today, I will seize that slim chance to live. Shinseai bit down hard on the devil fruit, just as the sea god cannon's shell slammed into the cloaked man. A deafening explosion engulfed his form. Moments later, he tore through the blast radius, seething with rage at being deceived. The moment his gaze locked onto Shinseai, the man froze in stunned awe. Crimson radiance washed over the entire sky as Shinseai hovered aloft, emanating overwhelming aura. Unlike the cloaked man's uncanny, indescribable presence, Shinseai's bearing carried solemn grandeur and regal authority. Mythical Zoan Blind Box activated successfully. You have obtained the Dragon Candle Devil Fruit, Mythical Zoan Model. 100 enhancement scrolls consumed. Fruit proficiency elevated to advanced rank. Dragon Candle Fruit rank. Dark Gold Primeval Development Level, Advanced. Skill 1. Open eyes to bring forth daylight. Close eyes to shroud the world in night. As an ancient deity governing the cycle of day and night, opening your eyes banishes all corruption and darkness. Closing your eyes drags all creation into lifeless, stagnant shadow. Channeling his ability, Shinseai slowly lifted his eyelids. The entire dawn isle blazed with brilliant light. The towering spire structure at the island's core scattered the luminescence outward, bathing every inch of the Dawn archipelago in pure radiance. The cloaked man dissolved amid the blinding glow, and the sacrificial altar faded into nothingness. Shinseai drifted gently to the ground and faced the warped, unrecognizable remains of the former pope. Old schemer, did you ever imagine you would meet such a miserable end? The grotesque papal abomination could only stare blankly, incapable of forming any response. I would have loved to drag out your suffering for a good long while, but I've grown weary lingering on this island. With those words, Shinseai slowly shut his eyes. Pitch-black darkness expanded outward with him and the pope as its epicenter. Nightfall descends. The mountainous flesh monstrosity of the pope was swallowed whole by the darkness and erased entirely. A glowing orb of strange light attempted to flee the scene, only to be trapped by golden energy conjured by Shinseai. This precious relic left behind by the cloaked man held the essence of infinite wisdom. Even if assimilating its power came with great risk, Shinseai resolved to attempt absorbing it. He pulled every book from his storage bag and picked one at random. Using his book fruit ability, he manifested a book realm and drew the luminous orb inside its pages. The second the orb settled within the tome, twisted flesh sprouted from the paper's crevices, causing the book to mutate in the same horrifying manner as the fallen pope. Shinseai summoned lightning in his grasp and crushed the corrupted volume to dust. He repeated the process with a second book, then a third, yet every attempt ended in failure. Just then, Shiga floated over to Shinseai's side. He bore none of his usual carefree, reckless demeanor. A steady, dependable aura now clung to his paper form. Let me give it a try. Shinseai knew Shiga was nothing more than a sharp-tongued troublemaker with little practical merit, and he moved to refuse, only to watch Shiga swallow the glowing orb whole. No grotesque mutation followed as feared. Instead, Shiga's entire body shimmered with ethereal light, his book cover shedding its eerie corruption for a shroud of mysterious power. A surge of elation washed over Shinseai. I never thought you'd actually pull this off. Shinseai tapped the floating Shiga, who gave no reply. The orb contained not just the boundless knowledge bestowed by the cloaked man, but the complete life memories of the late pope as well. As Shiga processed the pope's recollections, fragmented memories locked within his consciousness pieced themselves back together. A dormant residual soul sealed inside the old ship's logbook fully awakened. Shiga, or rather the soul dwelling within him, was Loomis Sig, former king of the Loomis Kingdom. Every buried memory flooded back into his mind. Young Loomis was a street urchin despised by all residents of Dusk Isle, much like countless orphan children on the island. He spent his days causing petty mischief and small-scale trouble, never straying far from one reckless deed to the next. The townsfolk all held him in contempt. Everything changed upon the arrival of a priest named Hard, the very man who would later become the Pope and Loomis's mentor. With Hard's guidance, Loomis unlocked his extraordinarily powerful soul aptitude. His intuition and observational skills far surpassed ordinary humans, and his spiritual essence could even detach from his body to launch assaults on others. Once, Loomis was falsely accused of theft by a renowned local thief, and no islander would vouch for his innocence. Crushed by disillusionment, he set sail for open seas following Hard's suggestion. Hard cared for him, encouraged him, and offered fatherly guidance through every hardship of his ocean journey. Loomis's latent talents flourished across the turbulent seas. He dared to navigate the most perilous ocean zones, claimed priceless treasures, and escaped each deadly encounter unscathed. Eventually, with Hard's assistance, Loomis conquered a sea region where no soul had survived for a full century, retrieving 3 legendary artifacts in the process. Mariners across the seas hailed him as a legendary adventurer. He could have continued his seafaring exploits indefinitely, but devastating news from Hard altered his path forever. A strange crimson mist had enveloped Loomis's homeland, the Dawn Archipelago. Horrifying aberrations crawled onto shore and slaughtered the human population without mercy. What glory is there in great success if you cannot return home to share it? Loomis abandoned his lifelong dream without hesitation to journey back to his homeland. No longer the reckless youth of years past, Loomis had risen to the rank of 5th-tier Soul Knight by this time. Combining Loomis's overwhelming physical might with Hard's profound erudition, the pair quelled the crisis plaguing the Dawn Archipelago. The tale of a delinquent youth returning as a savior captivated every island resident. Loomis became their beloved hero and the uncrowned ruler of the archipelago. The story unfolded like a perfect fable. The wise mentor guided the realm, and the hero ascended to kingship. Peace should have endured, yet disaster lurked beneath the surface. Hard, hiding his madness behind the mask of a sagely tutor, finally revealed his true malice. First, he staged the death of Loomis's son, young Loomis, using forbidden dark rituals to place the boy in a death-like suspended state. When the elder Loomis was overcome with grief and vulnerability, Hard pressed him once more to complete the summoning ritual. He claimed only by calling forth an evil god could they gain eternal life and boundless power to safeguard the Loomis kingdom. The ritual ultimately collapsed. Elder Loomis watched in horror as his citizens were twisted into pale, monstrous abominations. Realizing Hard's treachery, Loomis sacrificed his own soul to trigger a massive explosion that destroyed the summoning ceremony. His fractured residual soul drifted back to dusk bound to his teenage ship logbook, trapped within fragmented memories. Hard was not defeated entirely. He reconstructed the ritual and manipulated young Loomis with false promises. Hard claimed only immense power could let the island's citizens, transformed into ghoul-like beings, endure eternally upon these ocean lands. His schemes crumbled thanks to Shun Si's intervention. A farewell letter written by Sister Anna, young Loomis's closest confidant, dismantled the ritual at its final stage. The memories faded away. Loomis Sig hovered above the ruined capital city, staring out at the scattered corpses of the ghoul citizens. His book-shaped form radiating deep sorrow. During the recollection, his formidable spiritual power projected the entirety of his tragic history into the minds of everyone present. Sasha picked up the broken half of the Pope's ceremonial staff, snapped it clean in two, and stamped the fragments deep into the muddy ground. Yu Zhao retrieved the fractured sword belonging to the Ghoul King, young Loomis. He brushed dust from the blade and buried it with proper knightly rites. Wisps of residual soul drifting from the broken sword were absorbed by the bloodthirst greatsword. Shinsiai walked over to Loomis Sig and pulled a pipe from his storage pouch, offering it to the ancient soul. From pirate films he had watched in his past life, he knew pipes were a classic comfort for sailors burdened with sorrow. Loomis Sig accepted the pipe naturally, his paper mouth drawing slow puffs of smoke. The sky cleared completely as sunlight spilled over the distant sea horizon. The giant central dome of the capital gathered the sunlight, bathing the entire island in warm brightness. After finishing his smoke, Loomis Sig spoke in a quiet tone. "My era has long ended. The future belongs to your generation now." The ship logbook dipped downward abruptly before floating back into place. A familiar, frivolous voice echoed out. "It's all over then. Wait a second, I remember something. Don't forget the stars we once gazed upon together, old friend." Series Quest. Loomis's tragedy completed. Reward acquired. Forbidden Tome. Forbidden Tome rank. Orange. Epic description. Countless truths of this world have been buried from public knowledge. To obtain forbidden knowledge within its pages, you must pay an equivalent price. Ability. Sacrifice a designated cost to gain corresponding knowledge. Regional announcement. Survivor Shinsiai has finished the regional series quest and obtained full ownership rights to the Dawn Archipelago. Leaderboard calculation period ended. Survivor Shinsiai ranked 999th. Reward. 500 maritime coins plus 1 treasure chest guaranteed minimum reward. Blue tier blueprint upon opening. Morning sunlight fell warmly over Dawn Isle for the first time in ages. Shinsiai gazed at the archipelago reviving around him, his heart filled with gratification. This expedition had yielded extraordinary gains. He had gotten his hands on the overpowered Forbidden Tome alongside legal ownership of the entire Dawn Archipelago. The turbulent seas operated by vastly different rules compared to the starting seas, boasting far more abundant supernatural resources scattered across its countless islands. Shinsei could scarcely imagine the staggering wealth he would amass once he claimed ownership over every island in this ocean region. Deciding to celebrate his victory, he opted to open his newly earned treasure chest first. Treasure chest opened. Obtained blueprint. Awkward dance statue. Crafting materials required. 2 wood planks, 1 iron ingot, 1 precision metal component. Effect: creates a decorative statue. Any person who locks eyes with the statue has a 0.01 chance to lose voluntary bodily control and be forced into uncontrollable awkward dancing. Shinsei let out a helpless chuckle reading the item description. I suppose all my luck was burned up the moment I claimed the dragon candle fruit. Regional global chat channel current online users, 81,444. A muscular man dressed in a garish pink tailored suit knelt massaging the legs of a towering brute, standing nearly 3 meters tall. Seething with resentment as he watched Shinsei, a fresh arrival to the turbulent seas, secure ownership of an entire archipelago while he spent his days catering to stronger survivors, bitterness boiled over within him. Why him? How does a rookie get full control over an entire island chain? I've scraped by for 8 long years out here, and all I have to show for it is being a subordinate to someone stronger. Cut the delusions, will you? The seas are ruled unconditionally by strength. Us weaker folks should count ourselves lucky just to stay alive out here. I refuse to accept this. If our paths cross, I'll crush him like an insignificant bug. By all means, go after him. No one is stopping you. For your information, there are only 2 legitimate ways to claim ownership of an archipelago. The first requires immense luck to unlock and complete a full series quest for the landmass itself. This path is anything but simple. The second demands overwhelming combat power to hunt down and slay every dominant abomination within the Crimson Mist zones until the mist dissipates entirely. Both methods demand formidable strength, at minimum 5th tier power. So tell me, what tier have you reached? The pink-suited warrior fell silent with no retort, jeers flooding the regional chat shortly after. Veteran survivors chatted casually amid the mockery, while newer players dared not interject, only marveling at Shinsei's formidable strength. Shinsei never witnessed this exchange, yet several private messages popped up on his interface. You're nothing more than a lone survivor. Owning a whole archipelago will only mark you for death. Hand the territory over to me for 50,000 maritime coins. Signed, Li, leader of the Cross Society. Deep within a vessel anchored at a remote sea zone, Li sat inside a dim cabin before a twisted stone statue. A woman named Lena performed a wild, frenetic dance before the effigy. When the dance ended, Lena settled beside Li and leaned close to speak. Are you certain this plan will succeed? That archipelago is critical to our overall agenda. Li lit a cigar with a lighter, wearing a self-assured grin. Everything is proceeding exactly as planned. Upon seeing the sender was the Cross Society, Shinsei's expression darkened. The faction had placed bounties on his head for no clear reason back in the starting seas, and their leader had fled the scene during the Kraken battle. Now Li dared lowball him with a measly 50,000 coins for his archipelago. Shinsei narrowed his eyes in thought before a malicious smirk tugged at his lips. He wants my island that badly? I'll make him pay a steep, inflated price for it. Shinsei contacted Zhao Gang from the Iron Heart Alliance via private message, spent 500 maritime coins in the System Mall to launch a public cross-regional auction, and finalized all relevant settings. Regional Global Announcement Survivor Shinsei has spent 100 maritime coins to launch a public auction. Entry fee for participants, 50 maritime coins per person. Li exhaled a cloud of cigar smoke, glancing at his balance of 300,000 maritime coins with disdain before paying the entry fee to join the auction. Aboard the Iron Soul, flagship vessel of the Iron Heart Alliance, Zhao Gang stood inside the bridge reading Shinsei's private message alongside the 50-coin payment, a mischievous grin spreading across his rugged features. Rest easy, brother. I may look rough around the edges, but I'm more than skilled at running up a mark's bidding price. Shinsei intended to work alongside Zhao Gang to manipulate Li into vastly overpaying for the Dawn Archipelago. No matter what bid Li placed, Zhao Gang would counter with incremental raises to inflate the final sale price to 2 or 3 times the land's actual value. Prior to opening the auction, Shinsei had asked Shiga to appraise the archipelago's true market value. The landmass plus the residual ghoul corpses were worth roughly 100,000 maritime coins in total. The ghoul remains could be refined into blood crystals that passively boost a survivor's stamina stat. accounting for the higher baseline price. Shinsei had already collected every ghoul corpse scattered across the island prior to the auction. Numerous other participants joined the auction, established faction leaders, powerful lone survivors, and even Zhang Long and Zhao Hu alongside two other core members of the Black Nine Beasts faction. The group had just finished clearing all supernatural creatures on a small island and were celebrating with a feast when a subordinate alerted them to the auction hosted by their faction leader Shinsei. Naturally, they paid the steep 50-coin entry fee to show their support. Within the virtual auction arena, every participant's physical appearance was blurred by the system. Shinsei stood center stage holding an auction gavel. The gavel struck once with a sharp clang. Up for auction, full ownership deed to the Dawn Archipelago. Starting bid set at 50,000 maritime coins. Minimum bid increment, 10,000 maritime coins per raise. The auction is now open. As soon as he finished speaking, bids began pouring in. Rose Covenant, 60,000 coins. Independent Survivor Bobby, 70,000 coins. Lily scoffed at the modest incremental bids from other participants. All these paupers can only scrape together tiny raises. I'll drive the price to a sum none of them can compete with, and this island will be mine for certain. He typed a 2-digit bid value into the system interface. Cross Society bids 100,000 maritime coins. A hush fell over the virtual auction space. 100,000 coins sat at the absolute upper limit for the market value of a small archipelago. No rational buyer would risk overpaying for land with uncertain future returns. Several participants opted to withdraw from the auction entirely. Lily wore a triumphant smile, fully convinced he had secured the territory. Abruptly, another participant placed a new bid. 110,000 coins. Lily shot upright in his chair, glaring at the blurred silhouette of the opposing bidder. Damn it, some stubborn fool is competing against me. He might have conceded defeat if not for the value of the ghoul corpses hidden across the archipelago, a resource vital to his faction's schemes. Lily gritted his teeth and raised his bid once more. 150,000 coins. The rival countered instantly. 160,000 coins. Lily crushed the butt of his cigar against his desk surface in frustration. 200,000 coins. At double the archipelago's true market worth, Lily assumed his rival would abandon the bidding war. His assumption proved correct. Back aboard the Iron Soul flagship, Zhao Gang stared at the bidding input box with a long sigh before closing the interface. I'm sorry I can't push this further, old shun. Even selling my very soul wouldn't cover a bid this high. No worries, Zhao. I appreciate your help regardless. Shinsei rewarded Zhao Gang with several high-tier technological blueprints as compensation for his assistance. Shinsei prepared to conclude the auction when multiple bidders in the far corner of the arena submitted a collective bid. 250,000 coins. Bid submitted by Cross Society affiliates. Lily flew into a violent rage and crushed the skull of one of his unfortunate underlings in his fury. The twisted statue emitted an eerie glow as madness fully consumed him. You wish to drive up the price? Very well, let us compete. 300,000 coins. Sold to the highest bidder. Shinsei immediately confirmed the transaction. The following day, upon arriving at the Dawn Archipelago to claim his purchase, Lily roared in unbridled fury at the completely emptied island landscape. A brand new week has begun, and the leaderboard rankings are being updated. Congratulations, your rank has climbed to 888th place. Shinsei paid no mind to the ranking improvement. The rewards for a 900-something rank were meager at best. Jumping just over 100 spots would hardly grant him any worthwhile loot. I still can't figure out what that fool who challenged me to a one-on-one fight was even thinking. Having ignored the regional chat channel for ages, Shinsei opened it out of boredom. Regional chat. Hey, this guy named Shinsei is climbing the rankings way too fast. Absolutely insane. 100+ rank jumps in a single week. It's terrifying to think how powerful he'll become in a month or half a year. I heard he sent all of Feng Sha's subordinates to the mall for permanent conversion. Being marked as tradable goods is a fate worse than death for those people. We can't let someone like him keep growing stronger. Anyone up for teaming up to take out Shinsei? Why bother? He's not in the top 100. Anyone can get killed out on the Sea of Strife any day now. Instead of fixating on him, we ought to discuss the Mysterious Amusement Park. Mysterious Amusement Park, a bizarre floating amusement park. Survivors who enter may take part in any amusement ride and game available within its bounds. Didn't this amusement park only manifest once every 3 years? The last appearance was just a year ago. Why is it showing up again? Beats me. Go ask the ghosts for answers. I just recruited a rookie with the wisdom talent, and I'm planning to test my luck inside the park. Count me in. A pin system message sat at the very top of the chat feed. The Cross Gang has spent 500 units of supplies to pin this notice. A bounty of 10,000 nautical coins is offered for the head of survivor Shinsei. A laugh escaped Shinsei the second he read the message. I guess I didn't swindle them hard enough before. They've actually scraped together nautical coins just to put a price on my head. Calming his amusement, Shinsei contacted the survivor, who mentioned the mysterious amusement park using an anonymous identity. Buddy, would you be willing to trade the coordinates for the mysterious amusement park? Name your price. It's just a set of coordinates, no payment needed. But you must have some solid skills, right? Want to join my party? After receiving the coordinates, Shinsei politely declined the invitation. There was no way he'd team up with total strangers. Getting stabbed in the back mid-job would be a mild outcome in comparison to worse betrayals. Winds swept across the open waters as the demon vessel set sail. Shinsei meditated within the ship's combat simulation chamber, attuning himself to the power of the candle dragon fruit. Unlike his other perfected devil fruits, the candle dragon fruit bore a tier of dark gold, primordial. It was arguably the highest quality artifact discovered anywhere across the Sea of Strife to this day. Contrary to the original timeline's lore, consuming the mythical Zoan, candle dragon fruit did not grant Shinsei complete beast transformation. When channeling its power, only a pair of candle red dragon horns sprouted from his forehead. What was more problematic was the severe backlash after his last use of the fruit's power, leaving him weakened for 3 full days. During that period, he looked gaunt and withered like a centenarian elder, devoid of any trace of vitality. It took non-stop eating over those 3 days for him to fully recover his stamina. For this reason, Shinsei needed ample time to grow accustomed to this overwhelming power. As for his motive for heading to the mysterious amusement park, it was all because of Sig, the Forbidden Tome. Ever since mastering forbidden magic recently, Sig had been desperate to prove his strength to everyone aboard the ship, leading to one silly mishap after another. When Sasha refused to prepare his favorite stargazing refreshments, Sig spilled the news about Sasha's hidden personal belongings to the whole crew. When Yu Zhao ignored his ramblings, Sig told Shinsei every detail of Yu Zhao's dream where she'd dreamed about him. Sig's constant meddling quickly earned the ire of all the women on the ship, who collectively subjected him to a lengthy disciplinary roasting to settle the score. Shinsei's plan for this trip to the amusement park was simple. Force Sig to unleash all his forbidden knowledge in one go during the park's challenges, so the troublesome book would stop stirring up petty trouble every single day. The group soon arrived at the mysterious amusement park. A thin layer of crimson mist hovered over the calm ocean surface, shrouding an amusement park that floated eerily above the waves. The demon vessel drifted closer, and Shinsei immediately spotted a familiar figure standing on the shore. Devourer. Shinsei, you rotten bastard. I knew all of this mess was your doing. I'm going to kill you right now. Men, attack. Before Lily could finish shouting, Lena beside him held his men back. There's no need to fight them outright. The deity has shared plenty of intel about this amusement park with me. We can torment him slowly once we're inside. Seeing the opposing group hold their fire, Shinsei had no intention of striking first either. With Sig backing him up, he could not fathom a single game challenge he would possibly lose. Upon entering the park grounds, the two groups proceeded forward in silent tandem, one party trailing the other. Shortly afterward, they arrived at a Western-style saloon bar lined with countless varieties of liquor. A single revolver rested atop a round table in the center of the room. Lena leaned in and whispered a few words into Lily's ear. This is the venue for one of the park's games, Russian roulette. The deity informed me this game is amplified by luck-based talents. Anyone blessed with a fortune talent stands an extremely high chance of winning this match. One ear has the fortune talent. Send him up to play. Lily's face lit up with excitement after hearing Lena's explanation. The man with one damaged ear took a seat at the table and sneered at Shinsei's party. You acted so high and mighty when you scammed us out of 30,000 nautical coins. Now, are you bold enough to bet your life against me? Shinsei was inwardly exasperated at the audacity of such a mediocre foe. Taking a deep breath, he used telepathic communication to speak privately with Sig. This mental link was the only genuinely useful skill Sig had developed lately, costing Shinsei a hefty sum of resources to unlock. Hey book, can we guarantee a win here? Victory is absolute. I know everything there is to know. And quit calling me silly nicknames. I am the great, omnipotent Forbidden Tome. Shinsei pulled out a chair and sat down. The revolver floated upward automatically, with a single bullet loaded into its cylinder. The cylinder spun violently before slamming back onto the tabletop. One ear propped one elbow on the table, resting his chin in his hand while tapping his thigh smugly. Will you fire first? or shall I? It hardly matters either way. I'm guaranteed victory. A little secret for you. My fortune talent activates once per day, and I haven't used today's charge yet. You're walking straight into your own death. Shinsei paid no heed to One Ear's taunts and messaged Sig quietly once more. Should I take the first shot? From within Shinsei's storage pouch, Sig swallowed a small green item before replying. Let him go first. The bullet is lined up perfectly with the firing chamber right now. He'll drop dead the second he pulls the trigger. Shinsei gestured with one hand for his opponent to make the first move. One Ear grinned widely and grabbed the pistol with an arrogant flourish. He tossed Lily a reassuring thumbs up right before squeezing the trigger. Click! The firing pin struck the bullet primer. Bang! A deafening gunshot echoed through the saloon. One Ear no longer had just one injured ear. His entire head exploded into a spray of blood and tissue. Shinsei strained to keep a straight face, fighting back his laughter. Don't laugh. Maintain your composure. And Jean and Yu Zhao covered their mouths to stifle giggles, while Sasha burst into loud, unrestrained laughter. A fortune talent meant nothing here. When it came to raw luck, no one could rival Jean. Even more so, no mortal game cheat could ever outmatch an omniscient knowledge cheat like Sig. Nothing more than a pathetic clown. Survivor One Ear has perished upon losing the game. Shinsei has acquired all of his supplies. Entertainment points, plus 50. Staring at the headless corpse on the floor, Lily simmered with rage and could only trudge onward with his group. The group halted next at a mahjong and chess parlor. Inside an ornate private booth stood a full set of international chess pieces on a chessboard. Deadly chess match game type. Player versus player rules. Survivors compete in a game of international chess. The victor may force the loser to surrender one of their bodily organs, repeating the penalty until one contestant dies. Winners claim all enemy supplies alongside bonus entertainment points. Are you confident in our odds with Lena's plan? A 90% win rate. I spent a fortune hiring a top-tier hidden class user for this match. He was a professional international chess champion back on our original world, with multiple tournament titles to his name. His current class is Chess Sage, amplified by exclusive class skills. There's no way anyone can beat him. What accounts for the remaining 10% risk? He charges an exorbitant fee of 1,000 nautical coins per match. We were short on funds, so I only paid a 100 nautical coin deposit up front. I'm worried he'll half-ass the match out of resentment for the partial payment. 1,000 nautical coins is trivial money. Lily emptied every last coin from his account and handed the full payment to the elderly chess player, his eyes blazing with unshakable confidence. The chess expert was a 50-something elderly man dressed in a crisp white shirt and gray trousers. Wire-rimmed reading glasses perched on his nose, looking every inch the stuffy old scholar. He did not spare Lily a single glance as he marched over to the chessboard and waited for his opponent. The man was nothing more than a skilled con artist. While the chess sage hidden class was exceedingly rare, it was a non-combat profession with abysmal fighting capabilities. Chess expertise held zero practical value within the sea of strife's survival ecosystem, leaving him perpetually struggling to scrape by. When the Cross gang walked in as rich, gullible marks, he saw the perfect chance to swindle them for every coin he could get. His haughty, nose-in-the-air demeanor was merely a persona he crafted to project the aura of an unrivaled master. Though he was a veteran survivor, his combat strength only ranked at Tier 2. Any single member of Shinsei's party could easily overpower him in direct combat. The old man seated himself on a straw mat and closed his eyes to meditate, fully convinced victory was already sealed. Shinsei smiled faintly at the elder's pompous posture. The man may have genuine chess skill, but every ounce of hard-earned talent was meaningless when facing someone with an unbeatable cheat code. Shinsei had no intention of stepping up to the board himself. He glanced back at the women traveling with him, and Jean bounced on her heels, eager to take part. Yu Zhao clutched her moon drink sword, her world revolving solely around blade work. Sasha tilted her head, observing the chess set with innocent curiosity. Sasha, you're up. Shinsei pointed toward the blank-minded young woman and spoke aloud. Don't accuse me of unfair play. I'll send our least strategically inclined member to compete against your expert. A malicious smirk tugged at Li Li's lips. Does he really think winning one measly game makes him invincible? Sending a random novice against my elite chess master will get them thoroughly demolished. Agreed, let the match begin. Lily accepted the wager instantly. The match commenced. Sasha had only existed with human consciousness for 2.5 weeks and did not understand the basic rules of international chess at all. If the game interface did not block invalid piece placements automatically, she would have scattered every chess piece across the entire table by now. A dozen moves in, Sasha possessed merely half the Elder's remaining pieces, arranged in completely chaotic, unplanned formations. The old chess master pushed up his glasses with a self-assured grin. So the opponent is a total novice with zero chess sense. This job will be over in minutes, and I can collect my payment and leave. Staring at her dwindling pieces, Sasha may not have been intelligent, but she could tell she was on the brink of defeat. She scratched her head frantically, as if the motion could somehow grant her sudden chess wisdom. Suddenly, Sasha jolted upright as if struck by static electricity, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. Mental communication channel Sasha. You old book. Hurry up and tell me how to beat him. Win this match for me, and I'll let you enjoy all the stargazing treats you could ever want. Sig. Consider it done, partner. Instantly, a sequence of counterplay spanning the next dozen winning moves flooded into Sasha's mind. 10 minutes later, the elderly man was sweating profusely, pacing his fingers back and forth over the chessboard in frantic contemplation. He heaved a long, defeated sigh and set his piece down. I concede defeat. Watching the elder's horrified expression filled Sasha with amusement. Such an entertaining opponent deserved to be toyed with slowly. Select the bodily organ your opponent must forfeit. His left leg. The elder's left leg vanished from his body. He gripped the empty space where his limb once was, hatred burning in his eyes. This girl tricked me with some hidden advantage. Very well, I will play with my full focus for the next rounds. Round 2 ended with another loss for the elder, costing him his right leg. Round 3, 4, 5 followed in quick succession. By the final match, the elder was left with only one functional eye and a single hand, his body trembling violently as he stared at his lost game. Impossible, this girl must be some kind of natural chess prodigy. The matches brought back memories from his old life on Earth, when his grandson had beaten him at chess using walkthrough guides on a mobile phone. He must be using some form of external cheat. His chest caved inward abruptly, and the gravely injured elder perished after his heart vanished from his torso. Winner, Sasha. Entertainment points, plus 100. Lily had wasted the full 1,000 nautical coins he'd paid for the chess expert's services. Blind with rage, he lunged forward to attack Shinsei without hesitation. Warning, direct player-on-player combat is strictly prohibited within the mysterious amusement park premises. An invisible force slammed Li against the ground, pinning him immobile. Seeing their leader trapped, Lena rushed over to calm Li down. Do not lose hope. This was only a preliminary test. PvP games carry too many unpredictable variables. Let us move on to PvE challenges instead. With no viable way to lash out violently, Li rose to his feet and shot Shinsei a sharp, provoking glare, signaling for Shinsei to follow their group deeper into the park. Backed by Sig's omnipotent knowledge, Shinsei felt no intimidation whatsoever and trailed behind the cross-gang members. The group tackled numerous PvE amusement games afterward. The roller coaster ride featured both real and fake seat restraints. Anyone seated on a fake seat would be killed instantly mid-descent. Sig informed Shinsei's party that an entire row of 4 seats was completely safe. The cross-gang mocked the 4 of them for choosing that row. Yet Shinsei's group emerged entirely unharmed while a quarter of Li's subordinates died during the ride. Next came the carousel challenge. Players had to correctly name the background music playing, and slow or incorrect answers would result in sharp spikes bursting from the carousel horses to impale participants from below. Li watched his men drop dead one after another on the ride, seething with anger as Jean and the other women laughed and enjoyed the carousel ride without a care. No gambler wins, every bet forever. Fueled by fury, Li revealed his final trump card and led Shinsei to a gaming table for a dice game of high-low betting. Li gripped a strange carved statue hidden inside his sleeve. Its eerie glow warped the game dealer's control over the dice, letting Li dictate the dice rolls himself. The dice settled on a combination of 1, 3, 2, a low roll. Shinsei did not rush to voice his guess. Li watched Shinsei study the dice cup and sneered inwardly. No matter how lucky you are, the dice results are fully under my control now. The dealer brushed a finger against the dice cup, altering the dice roll to triple sixes, an unbeatable triple leopard roll. Sig immediately relayed the exact dice combination to Shinsei through their mental link. Shinsei felt genuine surprise, confused over how Li had manipulated the dice inside the sealed cup. Li caught sight of Shinsei's stunned expression and believed victory was guaranteed. He prepared to shout out the answer first and claim all the stakes. Triple sixes. Li froze on the spot, staring at Shinsei in total disbelief. How did he figure that out? This is completely unfair. I was the one using a cheat item here. The cursed statue within Li Li's sleeve shattered into pieces. Since arriving on the Sea of Strife, Li Li had lost all his nautical coins and 2/3 of his underlings. With his last powerful artifact now destroyed, he had lost everything he once possessed. Li Li leaned weakly against Lena, his remaining subordinates trailing behind him as they fled the park with dejected, defeated expressions. Shen Xiai watched their retreating figures silently, unable to hold back his laughter any longer. Sig floated out from the storage pouch and glanced toward Li Li's lonely departing form, asking out of the blue, "It's just a few lost games. If you can't take a loss, why even join the fun?" Sig's dry remark broke the dam entirely. Shen Xiai and the women erupted into unrestrained laughter together. Shen Xiai chose not to leave the park immediately, curious to learn the true purpose of the accumulated entertainment points. With Sig acting as an unbreakable all-knowing guide, the group spent the entire day clearing every amusement attraction the park offered. Total entertainment points acquired, 7777. New all-time record established. Rewards granted, 1x nautical chart, 1x mysterious reward, 10,000 nautical coins. Nautical chart tier, purple, eye rare effect. Contains detailed ocean topography for most regions of the Sea of Strife, marks real-time locations of white mist and crimson mist zones, and forecasts ocean weather conditions. While only ranked purple tier, a functional nautical chart was an invaluable asset for any seafaring survivor, a genuine minor treasure. Shen Xiai then reached out to retrieve his other reward, a blank tarot card with no printed suits or symbols. Unknown tarot card tier, undefined effect, undefined. As a former student from an Eastern university, Shen Xiai had only basic surface-level knowledge of tarot reading, and this card stat panel gave zero usable information whatsoever. Losing interest in the mysterious artifact, he tossed it casually into his storage bag, letting it gather dust alongside the ordinary devil fruits he collected day to day. The mysterious amusement park will close shortly. All survivors are requested to evacuate at once. Far out at sea, a Tier 4 warship raced toward the amusement park at maximum speed. A crew stood lined up on the vessel's deck, staring excitedly toward the floating park. The man standing at the bow was the very survivor who had given Shen Xiai the park coordinates earlier. He had spent extensive time preparing backup plans for this expedition, which explained his delayed arrival. The warship was moments away from docking alongside the amusement park when the entire park structure began to fade into translucency, slowly dissolving into the ocean mist without a trace. Suddenly, a pitch-black warship emerged from the vanished eerie amusement park. Shen Xiai stood at the bow, poring intently over his nautical chart. When he lifted his head, his gaze locked straight onto the survivor. "You're too late. The eerie amusement park has disappeared for good." Disappeared? That can't be possible. The amusement park always lingered for a long time once it manifested. It would only vanish if someone broke the existing score record from the previous instance. Wait a minute. Does that mean you're the one who, before the survivor could finish his sentence, cannon shells rained down from behind, unleashing a relentless carpet bombardment against the demon's vessel? Li Li stood aboard his wasteland ship, his face twisted with rage as he glared furiously at Shen Xiai. "Die? All of you die together." Shen Xiai let out a dismissive chuckle at the incoming artillery fire. Even after sailing into the Sea of Strife, the man still relied on outdated cannon fire. It baffled him that such a person led a minor maritime faction. Shen Xiai had always abided by a simple creed: "Do not provoke me, and I shall leave you be. If you strike against me, I will eradicate every last trace of you." A surging crimson light bloomed across the sky. Horns sprouted from Shen Xi's forehead as he hovered towering in midair. He slowly closed his eyes, intending to wipe the entire cross gang from existence in an instant. Bang, bang, bang. Strange statues mounted on the cross gang's warships shattered one after another, neutralizing the power of Shen Xi's torch dragon devil fruit. Shocked, Shen Xiai immediately halted his attack. He watched as the charming woman beside Li Li whispered something into his ear before crushing a strange eyeball in her palm. The entire fleet of the cross gang vanished on the spot. Everything unfolded far too swiftly for Shen Xiai to intervene. Staring out at the empty sea where the cross gang had been, he gritted his teeth in frustration. "I let my guard down. Next time our paths cross, I'll strike first with my power activated. I'll neutralize those defensive statues the second we meet, then send them straight to their graves." Deep within a shadowy stretch of the Sea of Strife, Li Li shuddered violently, still traumatized by the overwhelming power Shen Xiai had unleashed. What exactly was that ability? How can someone like Shen Xiai, who swears allegiance to no deity whatsoever, wield such terrifying power? This is all Shinsi's fault. He's the one who took everything away from me. Lily slammed his fists wildly against the table, snarling like a feral beast driven mad. Lena watched his outburst with a cold, calm stare. The obsequious warmth she'd worn earlier was gone, replaced by an inscrutable expression. She stepped toward Lily, leaning down to gently rub his back. Lily buried himself in her embrace and whimpered quietly, just like a child rushing home to their mother after being bullied outside. Patting his back softly, Lena spoke in a soothing tone. It is not all hopeless. At the very least, you still have me by your side. I just received divine guidance. The deity revealed a method for you to gain immense power in a short span of time. I'll take any cost, no matter what it is. I only want Shinsei dead. Lena pulled out a shard of stone statue. Nestled within the fragment was a glowing egg pulsing steadily with otherworldly light. This is a divine gift from our god. Consume it, and boundless strength will be yours. Ecstasy flooded Li Li's face, and he swallowed the egg whole in one gulp. The moment the egg settled in his stomach, scorching heat akin to molten magma seared his chest. His eyes blazed crimson, torrents of chaotic, primal knowledge flooding his mind non-stop as his body began to warp and mutate rapidly. His skin turned slate blue and gray, his frame stretched taller, his skull enlarged and drooped backward, tentacles sprouting from his jawline, and bat-like wings tore through his back. In the blink of an eye, a monster identical in appearance to the ancient statues stood before Lena. A low-ranking subordinate burst into the cabin moments later. The mutated Lily instantly lost all rational thought at the sight of the newcomer. He darted forward in a flash, slaughtering every single member of the Cross gang without exception, all save for Lena herself. Lily stared down at his blood-soaked hands as a flicker of sanity briefly returned to his mind. He roared angrily at Lena. This isn't power at all. You turned me into a mindless monster. Tell me the truth. Why would you betray me too? Lena pushed away his sticky tentacles with a look of undisguised disgust. Has it ever occurred to you that you never truly possessed any of those things to begin with? Men, charge. Seize that black vessel out there. Only one man is aboard, and the 3 women traveling with him are extraordinary fighters. The white-haired girl is mine. Hand the orange-haired one over to the first mate, and the towering woman standing over 2 meters tall can be divided among the rest of you. Forward. On another stretch of open sea, the demon's vessel locked hulls with a large enemy sailing ship. Clashes erupted instantly between the 2 crews. Shinsei lounged lazily on a beach chair, sipping red wine leisurely and tasting the vintage now and then. A survivor armed with a shotgun crept up on him from behind, finger hovering over the trigger. Before he could fire, a bolt of electricity struck the gun barrel. The shotgun backfired violently, scorching the survivor's face black. He collapsed backward with his eyes rolled into his skull. And Jean wore a fitted one-piece swimsuit that outlined her slender frame. A foe wielding a curved blade charged toward her. And Jean first clasped her hands before her chest, feigning obvious terror. She then pulled out her executor handgun from nowhere, triggering the weapon's passive effect to land an instant killing shot. Once the threat was eliminated, and Jean walked over to Shinsei and lay down beside him, leaning naturally against his shoulder. Sasha wielded a massive battle axe, cleaving through hordes of enemy fighters. Spotting the intimate moment between Shinsei and Jean, she frowned sharply. She planted her axe firmly into the deck, then drew her Sanskrit Gatling gun and unleashed a relentless hail of bullets across the battlefield. Yu Zhao fought with unrivaled grace and lethality. A poised, confident dancer, she twirled across the fray, weaving a deadly dance of death for all who crossed her path. The Sea of Strife was vastly different from the primordial sea. Survivors sailing these waters were forced to fight constantly, explore uncharted territories, and grow stronger with each passing day merely to stay alive. Anyone who managed to reach the Sea of Strife had already proven capable of basic survival amid this brutal ocean. Yet basic survival was never enough. In this apocalyptic world of nautical survival, civilized laws and moral boundaries had long crumbled into dust. Only primal survival instinct and insatiable desires stoked by raw power remained. Exploring fog-shrouded islands, battling rival factions for plunder, these were the eternal themes that governed the Sea of Strife. It was the only path to grow stronger, the only way to cling to life. As the battle drew to a close, the enemy first mate, a fourth-order oracle speaker, burned his own life force to summon swarms of abyssal aberrations. The ocean water boiled violently, countless twisted creatures surging forth to completely encircle the demon's vessel. Shinsei rose slowly from his lounge chair and stretched lazily. He pressed his palm against empty air, and a towering pillar of lightning crashed straight down into the ocean's surface. Upon impact, the pillar split into countless flexible, lethal lightning tendrils. Within mere breaths, the sea was carpeted with the lifeless corpses of the summoned monsters. Sasha stared at the mass of carcasses with hungry eyes. As a pack shark, consuming powerful creatures was the fastest way for her to evolve and strengthen her body. What are you standing around for? Dive in and eat your fill. I'm not wasting effort dragging these bodies up onto the ship for you. You're the best. Thank you so much, boss. Embarrassed by her accidental outburst, Sasha covered her flushed cheeks and plunged headfirst into the seawater. A 15-meter-long pack shark swam freely across the waves, gorging itself on the fallen monsters. This one tastes great, like ripe pineapple. Ugh, this one's terrible. Its flesh is tough and rubbery, with no flavor whatsoever. In her shark form, Sasha spoke aloud as she fed on the monster corpses. Thanks to the human fruit she'd consumed, Sasha gained the ability to speak even at the third order, an ability most pack sharks only unlocked upon reaching the fourth order to communicate with their kin. Sasha, is that really you? A familiar yet unfamiliar voice echoed out from behind her. Sasha spun around to find a 20-meter-long female pack shark floating before her, a jagged tear missing from its left pectoral fin. She sensitively recognized this individual. They had hatched from the same clutch of eggs long ago. This shark had once tried to devour Sasha, who had fought back ferociously and bitten off a chunk of the other's fin to escape with her life. It's you, what are you doing out here? Drop the formalities. I've given myself a name now, Razortooth. The shark gestured toward its rows of sharp fangs with its damaged fin. Razortooth? Terrible name. I'm Sasha, my boss named me. Pretty nice, isn't it? Sasha slapped her fins against the water excitedly, sending sprays splashing in all directions. How did you earn a name? More importantly, you're only third order. How are you capable of human speech? Razortooth froze in obvious shock, perplexed by all the unnatural traits radiating from her old clutchmate. The enormous 15-meter aquatic beast splashed carelessly through the ocean, drawing the attention of everyone aboard the demon's vessel. And Jin's eyes fluttered open, the faint silver glow of her predictive power fading away. She relayed the vision she'd seen regarding Sasha to Shinsei. So this shark is an old acquaintance of Sasha's? She plans to lure us to a hidden underwater palace, where a group of pack sharks will set a deadly banquet trap for us. And Jean gave a quiet hum of confirmation. She had absolute faith in her prophecies, yet the grim scene she had foreseen weighed heavily on her mind. An underwater palace and a feast turned ambush. Typical, blood ties mean nothing but betrayal out here. Interesting. We won't make any preemptive moves just yet. We'll watch and wait to see how things unfold. A faint smirk tugged at Shinsei's lips as he waved Sasha back toward the ship. Spotting Shinsei, Sasha swam over eagerly alongside Razortooth. This is my boss. Everything I am today is thanks to him. He gave me a mysterious devil fruit, and that's how all these changes happened to me. Sasha leaped out of the seawater mid-sentence and reverted to her human form. Pinching her own cheeks playfully, she preened for Razortooth to see. Look, I can talk and shift into a human body now. Being human is so fun. I get to fire a Gatling gun and blast things nonstop. Razortooth stared in stunned silence at Sasha's human figure, her gaze never meeting Sasha's eyes as she fixed intently on the human form before her. Abandoned by her own pack shortly after hatching, then taken in and cared for like a younger sister by Jean and the rest of the crew, Sasha was naive and unworldly by nature. She could not detect the malicious intent hidden within Razortooth's stare, a gaze twisted by burning, consuming jealousy. Shinsei and the others greeted Razortooth politely. We appreciate you looking out for Sasha over the years. She is fortunate to have someone from her origins watching over her. The group chatted amicably for a time. With the crew's gentle persuasion, Razortooth agreed to stay aboard for dinner. Sasha set up a 2-meter-wide iron pot on the deck, stewing chunks of monster flesh she'd cleaned with seasonings to make a rich braised meat dish. Tasting human cuisine for the first time, Razortooth's eyes lit up with delight. She alone ate half the pot of braised meat by herself. Still unsatisfied, she badgered Sasha into cooking a second full pot just for her. Even after finishing the second serving, Razortooth was barely full. She nodded her shark head repeatedly in approval of Sasha's cooking before speaking casually. We pack sharks value loyalty above all else. Since you've shared a meal with me, you must come back to our shark nest for a visit. Just what I was hoping you'd say. A knowing smile curved Shinsei's mouth as he replied. A simple visit hardly suffices for fellow wanderers of these seas. If we're going to grace your home, surely a proper feast should be held in our honor? A glint flashed across Razortooth's eyes, and she quickly agreed. How thoughtless of me. I meant to invite you to a feast, not just a tour of our territory. I suppose I grew overexcited seeing you again after all these years. My apologies. Shinseai waved off her excuse with indifference. Without further delay, the demon's vessel followed Razortooth toward a dark, abyssal stretch of ocean. Inside the ship's cabin, Shiga burst out of his storage pouch and slammed into Shinsei's body, his tone sharp with anxiety. You fool. Don't you know pack sharks are notoriously treacherous and untrustworthy? I am well aware. What? You know this and still choose to go? Are you trying to get yourself killed? Don't drag me down with you. I still have countless secrets left to uncover. Before Shiga could rant further, Shinsei channeled the power of his torch dragon fruit to suppress the energy within Shiga's forbidden tome, sending the spirit into a brief slumber. Guided by Razortooth, the demon's vessel sailed into waters black as ink. A faint cyan luminescence glimmered far ahead on the ocean's surface as they pressed deeper into the zone. For social creatures raised in isolation their whole lives, Sasha's heart swelled with joy at the prospect of meeting more of her own kind. Two third-order pack sharks spotted Razortooth in the approaching vessel. They darted swiftly down into the deep sea, returning moments later after delivering a report to their pack. These two are our sentinels. Countless far more dangerous aberrations lurk within these depths. We maintain constant vigilance just to survive out here. They've alerted our leaders now. It's safe for us to dive down. Following Razortooth's words, the two sentinel sharks spat out several pale blue pearls. Holding the pearls in their palms, a waterproof bubble enveloped each member of the group, allowing them to descend slowly into the ocean depths. A beam of cool cyan light stretched downward through the water, forming a protective barrier that warded off hostile deep-sea creatures and marked out a clear, safe passage. To speed their descent, Sasha transformed into her massive shark form and cradled Shinsei, and Jean and Yu Zhao gently inside her mouth. As they sank deeper, the dark waters gradually brightened, revealing a colossal shell-shaped underwater structure of unimaginable scale. A vibrant, luminous underwater world unfolded before Shinsei's eyes. Towering coral formations dozens of meters tall, starfish as thick as human legs, and all manner of strange, harmless supernatural aquatic life drifted through the halls of the sunken palace. This is our settlement, an ancient underwater palace whose origins have long been lost to time. The water-repellent pearls you carry were discovered within these palace ruins. Consider these pearls gifts from me, as a token of goodwill. But you must promise one thing. Protect Sasha and treat her kindly, no matter what hardships arise in the future. Sasha's eyes grew misty with emotion, feeling even closer to the kin she had reunited with. She shifted back into her human form, walking alongside the three others down the palace's main corridor. Most of the surrounding structures were crumbling and damaged, yet their worn grandeur was enough to hint at the magnificent splendor this place once held in ages past. The group continued forward until they reached a towering central palace building. Thousands of stone steps led upward, flanked by broken and toppled giant stone statues that cast an oppressive, heavy aura over anyone who stood before them. A horde of pack sharks poured out from the palace gates to greet them. At the head of the group loomed a 20-meter-long shark with a jagged scar slashing across its face, the pack leader. Scarface, pack leader rank, 5th order. Flanking him were two one-eyed 4th-order pack sharks, the second and third leaders of the pack. This is our leader Scarface, and these are our second and third in command, the one-eyed brothers. Razortooth introduced each shark in turn. Shinsei observed the gathering pack with quiet amusement. 1 5th-order leader, 6 4th-order warriors, and nearly 100 3rd-order sharks filled the courtyard. Any ordinary newcomer to the Sea of Strife would be trapped here with no hope of escape if they stumbled upon this group unprepared. Unfortunately for these sharks, they had picked a fight with the wrong person. A pleasure to meet you, Shun. You are the very first humans ever invited into our home. I intend to host a grand feast worthy of your arrival. Everyone, bring forth the banquet offerings. Scarface nodded approvingly at Shinsei's party and gestured for them to enter the palace for the celebration. As the group walked inside, the third shark leader hung back and spoke quietly with Razortooth. You've done excellent work. These human visitors are powerful targets, all sitting at 3rd-order strength. Absorbing their essence will greatly accelerate our evolution progress. The two whose power levels we cannot detect will grant us an even greater surge of strength once consumed. And what of your old clutchmate Sasha? Kill her without hesitation. Why should she live a far better life than you, after being cast out by our pack long ago? Razortooth's voice dripped with malice, the jealousy burning inside her no longer contained. The banquet began soon afterward. The dishes prepared by the sharks consisted of all manner of exotic seafood, some still wriggling and alive upon being served. Consume giant strength grouper, permanent +1 stamina. Consume moonlight salmon, +1 mana. Mana attribute was previously dormant within your body and has now been successfully awakened. Shin-Ci devoured seafood weighing 20 times his own body weight, much to the stun shock of every pack shark present. Wiping the food residue from his mouth, Shin-Ci was thoroughly pleased with the meal. While the flavors were inconsistent in quality, nearly every fish dish granted permanent attribute boosts. Though he owned the devil fruit tree and cared little for these minor stat increases, he knew these resources were incredibly valuable for other wandering survivors. Shin-Ci had already mapped out a profitable business plan in his mind. Capture these enhanced fish, mark up their price tenfold, and sell them to desperate survivors sailing the sea. Once the feast concluded, Shin-Ci's group prepared to take their leave, only to be blocked by Scarface. There is no need to rush off so soon. Since you've stepped foot into our domain, you will remain here forever. At Scarface's command, every pack shark closed in to surround Shin-Ci and his companions. Sasha froze in total bewilderment. Only moments prior, everyone had been laughing and dining together like old friends. How had the atmosphere turned hostile in an instant? I thought pack sharks valued loyalty above all else. We considered ourselves your guests and allies. Why won't you let us leave? Loyalty. Scarface let out a mocking roar of laughter. No wonder you were abandoned by our pack. You never learned the truth. Pack sharks are the most deceitful creatures swimming these waters. This creature is nothing more than a domesticated pet for humans. Exactly. I watched her lead these humans straight into our home. What else would you call a tame animal? Sasha crumpled inward under the jeers and insults hurled by her own kind, breaking down into desperate sobs as she shouted questions at the surrounding sharks. That can't be true. My blood tells me pack sharks are the most united and loyal beings across the entire ocean. The pack erupted into mocking laughter once more at her naive words. Sasha hung her head dejectedly, warm tears streaming down her cheeks. She had not shed a tear when Shin-Ci subdued her long ago, nor when she fought the colossal kraken and suffered near-fatal wounds. But now, her heart ached with crushing disappointment and sorrow, and she wept openly. Pay no mind to their words. Your own happiness and life are what truly matter. Remember this, we will always stand beside you. Shin-Ci rested a gentle hand on Sasha's shoulder and spoke in a calm, steady tone. In the next instant, pitch-black darkness erupted throughout the palace hall. The black void swallowed everything in its path. The sharks who had been jeering and threatening moments ago vanished without a trace in an instant. Razor Tooth lunged furiously towards Sasha, yet her body dissolved into nothingness halfway across the room, robbed of even a final chance to speak. Scarface, the Fifth Order pack leader, watched his own body dissipate bit by bit and spat out a bitter curse. We set out to trap fat prey for our feast, only to invite the Reaper himself into our home. When the black light faded away, Sasha buried her face in Shin-Ci's chest and cried softly into his shoulder. With Sasha in an emotionally fragile state, Shin-Ci led the group back safely to the demon's vessel. Later in the ship's bedroom, Sasha curled up under the covers, her whole body buried beneath the blanket. Her emotions were frayed, and her shark tail had involuntarily sprouted from her human form. Shin-Ci reached for the blanket to check on her condition, only to be stopped by Engine. You're such an oblivious guy. Don't you understand that girls need quiet alone time to heal after an emotional breakdown? Engine fixed him with a stern stare, leaving Shin-Ci scratching his head awkwardly, unsure how to comfort the grieving girl. You can either step outside right now, or sit quietly beside her without disturbing her. Shin-Ci gave an okay gesture and seated himself on the edge of the bed, patting the blanket gently to soothe Sasha. Engine shook her head at his clumsy, straightforward nature and quietly exited the room. Night fell eventually. Engine pushed the bedroom door open softly, carrying a small bowl of congee topped with preserved vegetables and tender meat. Shin-Ci placed a finger to his lips in a quiet shush gesture as he watched Sasha sleeping soundly, gesturing for Engine to set the food down on the bedside table. After Engine left, Shin-Ci noticed Sasha's shark tail twitching slightly beneath the blanket. A faint smile tugged at his lips as he scooped a spoonful of warm congee, blowing on it gently to cool it down before tasting it himself. This congee is absolutely wonderful, and Jin's cooking never misses the mark. It's a pity there's far too much for me to finish alone. Congee turns cold quickly, and it loses all its wonderful flavor once it cools down. Sasha's tail stiffened straight up the second the words left his mouth. She peeked out from under the blanket with red, puffy eyes streaked with dried tears, staring at Shin-Si with a dejected expression. It's all over now. You still have me, along with everyone else on this ship. But no buts. Are you hung up on the cruel things your pack said to you? Sasha gave a quiet, muted nod. Your life belongs only to yourself. There is no reason to care about the judgment of strangers. Let me tell you a little joke. Humans have people just like those sharks from your pack. They're what we call distant relatives who act entitled. When you have nothing, they pressure you with old customs and seniority. When you build a good life for yourself, they rush to curry favor with you. If they cannot gain anything from you, jealousy drives them to try to ruin your peace. Your former packmates are nothing but pathetic clowns consumed by envy. A soft snort escaped Sasha as she laughed through her lingering sadness. She took the bowl of congee and ate hungrily, while Shin-Si rubbed her back gently to calm her down. It was only after finishing the meal that Sasha realized something was off about her surroundings. This was Shin-Si and in Jin's private bedroom. How had she ended up here? Flustered, she threw the blanket aside and scrambled to her feet to leave immediately. The blanket slipped open as she moved, exposing part of her skin. Sasha let out a startled shriek and pulled the blanket tight around her body, her face burning bright red like a ripe fruit from embarrassment. Despite her bold, reckless personality on the battlefield, this awkward situation left her utterly flustered and bashful. There's no need to panic. Once we surfaced after leaving the underwater palace, the water-repellent pearls lost their effect, leaving all of us soaked to the bone. And Jean changed your clothes while you were unconscious. You can ask her yourself if you don't believe me. Sasha glanced at Shin-Si's sincere expression, and a faint flicker of quiet disappointment stirred within her chest. Shin-Si, completely oblivious to her subtle shift in mood, stood frozen in awkward silence, silently waiting for Jean to come resolve this uncomfortable predicament. A soft knock sounded at the bedroom door. Before Shin-Si could respond, Jean spoke from the hallway. I have unexpected visitors stopping by my quarters tonight, so I'll be sharing a room with you, Zhao. Take good care of Sasha for the night. Right after speaking, Jean locked the bedroom door from the outside with an iron bolt. Shin-Si banged his fist against the door repeatedly, shouting for her to unlock it. Yet Jean had already walked away toward Yu Zhao's cabin. An awkward silence hung heavy in the small bedroom. Shin-Si glanced out the window at the 3 crescent moons rotating slowly in the night sky before speaking quietly. You can stay here for the night if you'd like. Still raw from the betrayal of her own kind and the harsh ridicule she endured, Sasha's emotions were extremely vulnerable. Coupled with Shin-Si's thoughtful care throughout the evening, her view of him had gradually shifted into something far deeper than simple camaraderie. He was no longer merely a ruthless, powerful gang leader. He had become a man worthy of wholehearted trust and reliance. Sasha wrapped her arms around Shin-Si from behind. When Shin-Si turned his head, his vision had gone completely blurred. Sasha, what are you planning to do? Boss, I want to be your most loyal subordinate for the rest of my life. The two drew close to one another. Taking advantage of her taller stature, Sasha gently pinned Shin-Si against the deck, her tone laced with playful competitiveness. Boss, you'd better watch your step. I've got the best physical stamina out of everyone aboard this ship. Her words stoked Shin-Si's urge to prove his own strength. He immediately activated the candle dragon fruit, and his physical attributes were amplified 1,000-fold by the beastly power surging through his body. When dragon horns sprouted from the top of Shin-Si's head, Sasha instantly realized she had bitten off far more than she could chew. Today I'll show you exactly who holds the title of the most resilient person on this vessel. The morning sun slowly rose above the sea level. Shin-Si stood atop the deck, clad only in shorts, his sculpted, flawless muscles exposed to the sunlight. He gazed out toward the seawater shimmering with pale blue luminescence. He had fled the underwater palace in a hurry the previous night and had not gotten the chance to search the premises thoroughly. His black aura had effortlessly wiped out 5th-tier gang members affiliated with the Shark faction, so it stood to reason the palace itself would bear traces of his power. He planned to gather the extraordinary aquatic creatures dwelling within the palace while investigating its hidden secrets at the same time. Lost in his thoughts, Shin-Si suddenly yelped as a tiny hand pinched the soft flesh on his waist. He jolted upward in shock. Whoa, girl, you nearly scared the life out of me. Shin-Si rubbed his waist, feigning an expression of sharp pain. And Jean let out a soft laugh. Quit putting on an act. You endured hours of strenuous activity last night without a single complaint of soreness, yet one little pinch has you doubling over in agony. That's different. Watching Shin-Si flounder for a retort, and Jean smiled warmly before her expression turned solemn. Truth be told, in this merciless world of nautical survival, the three of us women are your crew, bound entirely to your command. You hold full authority over what becomes of us, bound only by your own discretion. Fortunately for us, you are a righteous, loyal man, even if you can be a touch oblivious to subtle feelings at times. So for all the days to come, Shinseai, we three place our fates entirely in your hands. Sasha wore a bright, contented smile after speaking her piece. Yue Zhao, hidden behind the wheelhouse, clutched her sword tightly to her chest, her cheeks flushed crimson. This moment felt abrupt, yet utterly inevitable. Shinseai nodded firmly in response, and Jean stepped forward, ready to embrace him, when her features suddenly hardened. She pointed urgently toward the pale blue ocean surface. Hurry! My foresight just triggered. Strangers are breaking into that underwater palace. And Jean, stay here to look after Sasha. Yue Zhao, secure the safety of the devil's vessel. With those orders, Shinseai dove straight into the ocean with a calm, icy resolve. That underwater fortress was territory he had claimed as his own. He intended to find out who these reckless intruders were, foolish enough to trample upon his bottom line. Without Sasha's support to bolster his underwater mobility, Shinseai moved through the seawater at a slower pace. From a distance, he spotted roughly 5 human figures. Several survivalists outfitted with high-tech diving suits marched alongside a cloaked figure bound in heavy iron chains. Shinseai tailed the group silently. The party soon arrived within the bounds of the palace. The survivalists moved with clear, predetermined goals, heading straight for the main hall atop the stone steps. The cloak covering the mysterious figure was torn away, revealing their true form. Shinseai's eyes widened in pure surprise at the sight. This was neither a special class survivalist nor some grotesque supernatural entity. Standing before him was a mermaid plucked straight from ancient maritime folklore. Her facial features were exquisite, her skin fair and pale, her pale blue hair rippling fluidly with the ocean currents. Her fishtail shimmered with a vivid cerulean hue. Yet her eyes, meant to be bright and lively, were hollow and clouded with unbridled terror. An ugly-faced woman wrenched the iron chains harshly. The metal hooks piercing the mermaid's palms tore fresh gashes, drawing streams of blood, and the mermaid cried out in agony. The harder the mermaid screamed, the tighter the woman pulled the restraints, only releasing her grip once the mermaid's cries faded into pained silence. Shortly afterward, the lead man leaned in and whispered something into the mermaid's ear. The mermaid trembled violently all over, forcing her battered body upright. She pressed her hands together and began to chant an unfamiliar, melodic hymn. The pale blue seawater enveloping the entire subterranean palace stirred in response to her call, surging violently inward to fill the great hall. A blue runic formation beneath the mermaid's feet blazed with ever-increasing radiance. At last, the mermaid expended her last reserves of strength to fully activate the massive runic array. A low rumble echoed through the hall. A towering water column wrapped in pure blue light materialized at the very center of the chamber. The survivalists dragged the chained mermaid into the glowing pillar. Shinseai held back from entering immediately, lingering to observe for several minutes, and confirmed there were no hidden traps before stepping into the water column himself. He emerged into a vast cerulean realm. A simulated sunrise stretched across the ground beneath his feet, while countless unfamiliar marine species swam through the air overhead. The survivalists caught sight of Shinseai's arrival, their gazes turning cold as they prepared to launch an immediate assault. Just as they moved to attack, a translucent pale blue figure materialized before the entire group. The trials of the Sea Mother commenced now. An invisible force seized every person present, rotating their bodies 180 degrees in place. The oceanic landscape dissolved, replaced by an endless stretch of sun-baked sand shore. Trial 1. Pearl hunting amid the sand. Sea survivalists must locate a single pearl hidden somewhere within this boundless sandy wasteland to pass the trial. Barely steadying themselves, the overweight, bald leader of the rival group moved to strike Shinseai, only to be held back by his subordinates. Seeing the opposing party stand down for the moment, Shinseai dispelled the crackling lightning coiled within his palms. This group clearly possessed insider knowledge about the trials. Even faced with the seemingly impossible task of combing an infinite sandbar, none of the survivalists showed the slightest hint of despair. They split up in different directions, scanning the sand with specialized detection equipment. Shinseai kicked at the compacted sand beneath his boots. The ground was densely packed, with a depth of at minimum 15 meters. He let out a derisive chuckle watching the rival party scramble frantically in their search. Was finding one pearl buried in this sand sea truly such an arduous task? He raised a hand, unleashing a violent updraft that stretched across a full kilometer of terrain. Countless grains of sand were swept high into the air, the surface level of the shore steadily dropping as Shinseai scanned his surroundings casually. Moments later, a pearl glowing with soft, lustrous light lay exposed on the newly lowered ground. Shinseai transformed his body into a bolt of lightning, closing the distance in an instant to pick up the pearl with a casual gesture. The rival survivalists stared on in utter disbelief and dismay. The trial rules state we have to search the entire shore for the pearl. How did he find it without moving an inch from his spot? All the gear and preparations we spent so much time putting together feel completely pointless now. Who lifts an entire stretch of sand into the sky with a single skill? What tier is this man? 5th tier? 6th tier? Beneath their envious, confused stares, Shinseai slowly lifted his hand to submit the trial item. The translucent blue spirit hovering overhead froze for a split second before snatching the pearl away with a flick of its wrist. Child, you have successfully retrieved the pearl. Congratulations on clearing the first trial. The bald man snapped out of his stupor and shouted angrily at the spirit. The rules require searching the whole sand sea. How is he permitted to use such large-scale offensive abilities? The blue spirit was a construct tasked solely with maintaining trial operations, lacking the authority to interpret or amend the written rules. It let out an exasperated, human-like eye roll and ignored the bald man's complaints entirely. Cheating with insider tricks, huh? I've had enough of playing by the rules. Fuming, the bald man ordered one of his underlings to eliminate Shinseai. The subordinate morphed into a shadowy form that sank into the sand, darting rapidly towards Shinseai's position. Warning: violent conflict is forbidden within trial grounds. Violators will be immediately erased. The shadow crashed into an invisible barrier, forcing the man back into his physical form. He crumpled to the ground, coughing up a mouthful of blood. Shinseai sat cross-legged on the sand, watching the rival group continue their fruitless hunt for the pearl. A faint voice suddenly echoed directly beside his ear. Human, could you lend me your aid? Shinseai glanced toward the rival party's position and locked eyes with the chained mermaid. He offered no reply, instead closing his eyes to rest quietly. After a lengthy wait, the opposing survivalists located their pearl using their strange detection devices. Trial 2. Dual Island Crisis. 2 islands separated by a vast stretch of ocean are simultaneously besieged by abyssal monsters. Survivalists must choose one island to defend. Rescued islanders will reward saviors with maritime coins. Collect more than 10,000 maritime coins to clear this trial. Island 1. A barren, sprawling island populated entirely by destitute common folk. Island 2. A small, fertile island home exclusively to wealthy nobles and merchants. Time limit: 10 minutes. Make your choice now. Reading the trial briefing, the bald man shot Shinseai a taunting glare. He had paid a steep price to purchase walkthrough notes for this specific trial from other veteran survivalists. Contrary to basic intuition, selecting the wealthy island was a mistake. The rich inhabitants were greedy, miserly opportunists who would never willingly part with their coins even after being saved. The impoverished villagers, however, would surrender their wealth out of fear and deference, making them a far more lucrative source of maritime coins. The bald man swiftly marked the poor island as his destination and boarded his vessel to set sail. A deafening sonic boom cut through the air, and Shinseai's small boat vanished over the horizon in the blink of an eye. Damn it, what kind of speed is that? Empowered by the wind fruit's unmatched velocity, Shinseai arrived at the wealthy island in mere moments. In his mind, there was no need to pick between the two islands. With his speed, he could defend both settlements single-handedly. Only fools settle for one option when they can claim everything. Hordes of twisted abyssal monsters swarmed the wealthy island's shores. The affluent residents shoved and betrayed one another without hesitation, sacrificing strangers to shield themselves from harm. Shinseai unleashed his Thunder God Hammer and Death Storm without hesitation, wiping out every monster in the assault in an instant. The surviving nobles stared upward at Shinseai, floating in the sky, revering him as a living deity. A man draped head to toe in gold jewelry and precious stones bowed respectfully toward Shinseai. Honorable ability wielder, in gratitude for saving our island's inhabitants, I offer you 10 maritime coins. He retrieved 10 coins from a solid gold chest and held them out toward Shinseai hovering above. Shinseai could only laugh bitterly at the man's blatant greed. He had witnessed this very noble trip a young girl to the ground just moments earlier in a desperate bid to flee the monsters. Selfishness and manipulative silver tongues were inherent traits of merchants across every world imaginable. Shinseai twisted his wrist, conjuring a wind vortex to drag the coins into his grasp. The noble brightened the second Shinseai took payment, ready to heap more flattering words upon him. A thin bolt of lightning pierced straight through the man's forehead before he could speak another word. The wealthy merchant collapsed lifeless to the sand, his face etched with stunned disbelief. The remaining survivors stared up at Shinseai in stark terror as he twirled the stolen coins casually between his fingers. These abyssal monsters have disguised themselves as humans and tried to pass counterfeit currency off on me. Tell me, does this creature deserve death? The nobles, who had regained their haughty demeanor following the monster attack, were overcome with overwhelming fright. He does. He absolutely deserves to die. The group knelt trembling on the sand, repeating the phrase in unison. Having witnessed the brutal execution of their fellow noble, every remaining resident donated their maritime coins freely without resistance. Shinseai confiscated every coin on the island alongside all the gold and jewels worn by the wealthy townsfolk. Maritime coins obtained, 9,999. Meanwhile, the bald man and his crew successfully repelled the monster hordes attacking the poor island. True to his plan, he and his subordinates began ransacking each household for valuables. He hefted his heavy money pouch, swelling with arrogant confidence. He had collected 4,000 coins after searching only a third of the village, and hitting the 10,000 threshold was inevitable with more homes left to plunder. I's definitely going to win this trial. While the bald man indulged in self-congratulation, Shinseai had already landed on the poor island's shores. He wasted no time unleashing large-scale attacks once more. The abyssal monsters here topped out at 4th tier. Their numbers were their only advantage. To Shinseai, wiping them out was no different from farming resources in a trivial video game dungeon, a negligible task. After eliminating the monster threat, Shinseai descended to the island's surface. The frail villagers kept their heads bowed, too timid to meet his gaze. An elderly man with gnarled, stick-thin limbs hobbled forward supported by a wooden cane. He said nothing, pressing a single polished maritime coin into Shinseai's palm. One by one, the other villagers stepped forward to donate their spare coins. Maritime coins obtained, 1,000. Having met the 10,000 coin requirement for trial completion, Shinseai had no reason to linger. A powerful gust of wind pressed every villager flat against the ground as Shinseai vanished from the spot, leaving behind a massive pile of preserved food supplies for the struggling settlement. All the islanders knelt and prayed fervently toward the direction he had departed. System announcement. This survivalist has completed the trial with exceptional merit. Not only did he acquire 10,000 maritime coins in record time, he also garnered the faith and devotion of all inhabitants on both islands. Subsequent trials will feature increased difficulty, alongside substantially boosted rewards for successful clearance. The bald man clutched his last handful of coins and erupted into furious shouts upon hearing the global announcement. What the hell is going on? What does exceptional trial completion even mean? Why raise the difficulty level out of nowhere? I was calmly gathering my coins, and the whole trial just got flipped upside down out of the blue. This is unfair. Show me the trial playback footage. The surrounding scenery morphed once again. The bald man marched up to the blue spirit waving his bulging coin sack, screaming in unbridled rage. The spirit pressed a hand to its ethereal forehead in weary exasperation. Why must this trial host deal with someone who saves 2 islands, doesn't act as a beloved savior, and instead executes a corrupt noble to scare the rest into handing over all their wealth? This man fights with methods akin to a dark cultivator. After watching the recorded playback, veins bulged prominently on the bald man's forehead from unbridled fury. He realized his mistake. He had followed the established rules far too rigidly. He fixed Shinseai with a murderous glare, already plotting his retaliation for the next trial round. Trial 3. Retrieve the vault key following the fall of Pearl City. The vault key required to unlock the ancient treasure vault was swallowed by a deep-sea anglerfish. Survivalists must retrieve the key from within the anglerfish's jaws to claim the final trial reward. Hint: deep-sea anglerfish are nocturnal creatures. They fall into a deep slumber during daylight hours when exposed to light, and emerge to hunt once night falls. A large hourglass materialized before the group, and the surrounding space plunged into total darkness, simulating the crushing depths 10,000 meters below the ocean surface. A menacing silhouette loomed out of the murky water. First came a faint golden glow, then the full, horrifying form of the colossal anglerfish materialized before them. The anglerfish opened its cavernous maw, preparing to swallow every person present in a single gulp. The hourglass suddenly inverted, and the dark seawater shifted to a bright, cerulean shade. The massive anglerfish froze mid-motion, locked completely in place. The bald man's eyes locked onto the flowing sand in the hourglass as he pieced together the trial's mechanics. Everyone keep your eyes on that hourglass. It controls the flow of time within this space. The seawater state shifts every time the sand fully drains. It's daytime right now. Huang Mao, go inside its mouth and fish out that key for us. The subordinate called Huang Mao paled with terror, but advanced toward the immobile anglerfish under the bald man's threats. A fully grown adult male stood no taller than a cookie crumb next to the anglerfish's towering frame. A single bite would crush him instantly. Huang Mao squeezed his eyes shut to avoid staring at the creature's grotesque fangs, twisting his body to reach into the anglerfish's slimy mouth and fumble around for the key. The sticky, mucus lining of the fish's mouth churned his stomach with disgust. Why do I always get stuck with the worst jobs? When will this miserable existence end? Huang Mao's quiet complaints were cut short as the hourglass flipped once more, plunging the seawater back into darkness. Two enormous, predatory eyes locked onto the tiny human figure before it. Before Huang Mao could utter a scream, the anglerfish snapped its jaws shut and swallowed him whole. Witnessing his subordinate's brutal demise, the bald man swallowed hard in visible fear. Damn this outsider crashing our trial. If he hadn't pushed the trial difficulty higher, Huang Mao would still be alive. Internal monologue from Huang Mao's lingering consciousness. Isn't it your reckless order that actually got me killed? Shen Xi paid no mind to the unspoken grievances between the rival leader and his dead subordinate. He watched the opposing group's failed attempt with a thoughtful expression. An hourglass governing time, nocturnal anglerfish behavior. Retrieving this key would be a trivial task for him. As every other survivalist watched in stunned shock, Shen Xi stepped forward directly toward the anglerfish's gaping maw and activated his candle dragon fruit ability. Shen Xi slowly opened his eyes, brilliant orange radiance flooding the entire dark space. The deep-sea anglerfish froze rigid on the spot. Sharp teeth coated in acidic mucus hovered mere centimeters from his face. Shen Xi let out a faint amused smile and patted the plump, fleshy lips of the anglerfish. No surprise the creature reeked terribly, confined to the pitch-black deep sea with no exposure to sunlight for its entire life. He reached into the anglerfish's throat and retrieved the glowing golden key without difficulty. Congratulations to the survivalist for clearing all trials. Final rewards will now be distributed. All other participants are ordered to evacuate the trial realm immediately. The bald man completely lost his composure. I've got proof now. This man is a dark cultivator who disregards every established trial rule. He tried to report Shen Xi's conduct to the Blue Spirit, yet the Spirit paid him no heed whatsoever. Fine, let him win the trial for now. What does trial victory matter when raw strength reigns supreme across the Strife Ocean? The trial realm restrains my power, but once we return to the real ocean waters, I'll make him surrender every last reward he's earned today. Withdraw, the bald man roared the order and fled the trial space with his remaining men. As the rival group departed, Shen Xi caught the mermaid's pleading gaze once again. Reward obtained. Fragment of the Sea Mother's Hymn times 1 fragment of the Sea Mother's Hymn rank. Purple, rare great effect. The Sea Mother's Hymn is a compiled collection of ballads crafted by the Sea Mother herself. Chanting these melodies earns the caster the ocean's blessing. Seawater will shield the bearer, and marine life will heed their commands. Individual songs grant distinct auxiliary and combat effects. Note, this is only a partial fragment. The specific abilities tied to each melody remain unknown for the time being. Description: this is the final gift the Sea Mother left for her descendants. Gathering all scattered fragments will unlock an extraordinary hidden reward. Shen Xi unfurled the fragment of the hymn, covered in twisted runes that shimmered with pale blue light. Even his ship's core system was unable to translate the unfamiliar script. Great, another set of cryptic, useless relic markings. Shen Xi's interest faded instantly. Just like the reward he received after clearing the eerie amusement park previously, this prize was shrouded in mystery, with no immediate practical use. Once Shen Xi claimed his reward, the trial realm finished its designated purpose. The Blue Spirit waved him off with obvious relief, as if bidding farewell to an unwelcome nuisance. The trial space dissolved entirely, depositing Shen Xi back inside the underwater palace. The bald man and his crew had been lying in wait for his return, charging forward in a coordinated attack the second Shen Xi's materialized. Kill him without mercy. Courtesy demands reciprocation. Since they had struck first with murderous intent, Shinseai would respond with his full, unbridled power. The bald man and his subordinates were swallowed whole by Shinsi's engulfing black aura. The chained mermaid stood just outside the aura's destructive radius. Threatened with mortal danger, the mermaid unleashed a resonant song that stalled the advance of Shinsi's black aura for a fleeting moment. Interesting. Shinseai retracted his dark aura. After looting all supplies from the rival group's corpses, he walked over to the injured mermaid. The mermaid was in far worse condition now. Her pale blue hair had faded to a sickly ashen shade and thinned drastically, while large sections of scales had fallen from her tail to expose raw, bleeding flesh underneath. Creature. Mermaid name. Unknown tier. 3rd tier skill 1. Mermaid's Ballad. Mermaids channel the power of the ocean by singing ancestral hymns passed down through their bloodline. Evaluation. A natural musician born of the ocean's depths. A sea musician, huh? Shinseai rummaged inside his storage pouch and pulled out Sig, who had been soundly napping inside the space. Sig, take a look at this fragment. Figure out who is capable of deciphering these runes. Sig pressed his non-existent nose against the fragment of the sea mother's hymn and inhaled deeply. Now this is a truly rare treasure. Kid, you struck incredibly lucky with this find. Cut the chatter and get me the answers I need. Sig retreated back into Shunsi's storage pouch and swallowed over 24 blue-grade materials he retrieved from his stash. The energy signature on this relic is fascinating. Before Shinseai could snap at his drawn-out rambling, Sig delivered the required information. Deciphering these runes won't be simple. This relic originates from the original, uncorrupted sea clans of these waters. Only pure sea clan deities untouched by external corruption can interpret the text inscribed here. Uncorrupted original sea clans. Shinseai latched onto this critical detail immediately. Take a look at this mermaid standing right here. Could she understand the writing? Sig followed Shinsi's gaze toward the badly wounded mermaid. A pure, uncorrupted mermaid? You've gotten impossibly lucky, kid. Mermaids are considered noble bloodlines within the ancient sea clans, so she will definitely be able to translate these runes for you. Planning to utilize her abilities for his goals, Shinseai sealed Sig back into the storage pouch once he had the information he required. The mermaid shrank back nervously under Shinsi's unwavering stare. This human's gaze filled her with dread. The previous group of humans had only exploited her to seize the sea mother's hidden treasures, yet this man looked at her as if he intended to claim her entirely for his own purposes. Women's intuition rarely fails them, and her instincts were perfectly accurate. In truth, Shinsi's thoughts were far more practical. Having someone who could decode the hymn fragment was an invaluable windfall. The hymn's melodies grant dominion over ocean tides and marine life. With her help, he could harvest every valuable aquatic resource hidden within this underwater palace to the last specimen. On top of her utility translating the relic, she was a skilled vocalist who could play music aboard his ship to ease the crew's boredom once all hymn fragments were collected. As a member of the ancient sea clans, she would also hold knowledge of lost historical secrets buried within these waters. Shinseai had gradually realized Sig was not an infallible source of information. The spirit could not answer questions regarding the ancient history of this maritime world. Persuading this mermaid to board the ship would be a threefold win for him. Shinseai stared at the mermaid for a full 10 minutes, mentally tallying up all the benefits with quiet satisfaction. While he was pleased with his plan, the mermaid was falling apart emotionally. He's still watching me. He hasn't taken his eyes off me this entire time. Mustering up all her courage, the mermaid locked eyes fiercely with Shinseai. I can't stand this anymore. I'll confront this human head-on. Even if he plans to cook me into grilled fish, I'm going to glare right back at him. Not bad. This mermaid has decent resolve to hold my gaze for so long. Greetings, Miss Mermaid. My name is Shinseai, a human being. Might I ask for your name? The mermaid only continued to glare at him without uttering a word. You must have been frightened by the earlier skirmish. I have some medicinal supplies for treating injuries. Would you care to use them? Shinseai laid out an array of healing items right in front of the mermaid, yet her fierce stare never wavered. Baffled by her total lack of response, Shinseai wondered what was going on. Does this creature not understand human speech? That couldn't be right. She had secretly sent him messages during the previous trial. Dropping the thought for the moment, he pulled out a fragment of the Mother Sea's movement to see if she recognized it. I've got something special to show you. He set the relic fragment down before her, the faint trembling of his eyelashes betraying his dwindling patience. The mermaid still fixed him with an unyielding glare. Boom. A bolt of lightning spear whizzed past the mermaid's delicate cheek and obliterated a stone pillar thick enough for two adults to wrap their arms around. Shocked into a state of panic, the mermaid immediately relented. "My name is Melusine. I can read the writing inscribed on this movement fragment." From Shenxi's perspective, Melusine's attitude underwent a complete 180-degree shift the second he unleashed that lightning strike. Despite her lingering wounds across her body, she began explaining the ancient script on the relic fragment in vivid detail. Her deep, ethereal singing tones were unlike any sound a human throat could produce. Shenxi's gaze lingered on the shattered pillar, deep in thought. Could this mermaid possess obsessive, overly intense personality traits? He glanced back at Melusine, who carried herself with refined manners and graceful speech, quickly dismissing the thought as absurd. There was no way that was the case. A mermaid as elegant as her was surely a royal fugitive from some underwater kingdom. Shenxi treated Melusine's wounds with his medical supplies, and the pair headed back to the demon's vessel. Once aboard the ship, Shenxi attempted to register Melusine as one of his crew members. Strictly speaking, Melusine was a native inhabitant of this world rather than a designated survivor participant, so he had expected the registration to fail. Contrary to his expectations, the system completed the binding automatically before he could even make the attempt. Demon's vessel crew member, Melusine. Status: fearful, excited. Race: mermaid clan. Rank: tier 3. Class: abyssal siren. Skill 1: mermaid's ballad. Native inhabitants were actually capable of joining survivor crews? This revelation sparked a new line of reasoning within Shenxi's mind. This maritime survival trial was not only populated by outsider survivors like himself. Native creatures born to this world were also participants in the game. The amount of new information weighed heavily on him, and a bold hypothesis took shape in his mind. He had misunderstood the nature of this trial all along. The Maritime Survival Challenge was far more than just a deadly game for imported survivors. Since native beings could become crew members, they were also pieces on some unseen player's chessboard. Both outsiders and natives were being manipulated by an unknown mastermind to fulfill some grand objective. The bitter truth stung him deeply. The stranded survivors pulled from other worlds were nothing more than disposable tools for this hidden force. Rage bubbled up inside Shenxi at this realization. Damn it. If I ever track down whoever is pulling the strings behind this scene, I'll make them pay dearly and force them to experience what it feels like to be toyed with at another's mercy. Thanks to the generous medical resources Shenxi poured into her recovery, Melusine's injuries healed rapidly. Worried that she could not breathe normally on land, Shenxi spent a hefty sum in the regional trade channel to purchase a blue-quality bathtub. Flying bathtub. Quality: blue fine grade. Description: a bathtub mutated by environmental corruption. It can travel across land or soar through the air in accordance with its user's will. In the end, he never needed to use it. Melusine gathered the pale blue breathing pearls the party had looted previously, items that allowed sustained respiration underwater, and strung them into a pearl necklace. Wish necklace. Quality: blue fine grade. Description: a necklace crafted from wish-bearing pearls. Effect: grants the wearer one ordinary, reasonable wish. Melusine's wish was straightforward: the ability to breathe freely on land, while still retaining her preference for staying immersed in water. This led to an odd sight roaming the decks of the demon's vessel: a four-legged, winged floating fish tank carrying a land-breathing mermaid wherever it drifted. Having spent her entire life deep beneath the waves, Melusine found every corner of the ship novel and endlessly fascinating. Shenxi had converted a spare cabin next to his sleeping quarters into a library and storage vault ever since he obtained the book fruit. The space served two purposes: stockpiling all manner of supplies, and letting him experiment to unlock additional abilities granted by his devil fruit power. In the original source material, the book fruit granted its user the ability to create book-bound illusions, domains used to trap and eliminate enemies. Unwilling to waste precious enhancement scrolls to unlock this power artificially, Shenxi had been writing original stories within the library to awaken the ability organically. His written works, however, were utterly bizarre and outlandish. Tales such as Snow White versus the Seven Goblins and Arrogant Tycoon Falls for Middle-Aged Me. These stories were absurdly surreal, bordering on incomprehensible to ordinary people. Inside the library, Melusine was immersed in a romance novel titled Hostility Blossoms into Fondness. She had just reached the story's climactic scene when Shenxi interrupted her reading. She slipped quickly into the water within her floating tank, blowing streams of bubbles and feigning that her wounds had not fully healed. Shinseai massaged his temples with a weary sigh. Your injuries have clearly healed completely. It is time for you to begin your assigned duties. Melusine poked her head out of the water, blinking her large eyes innocently up at him. Respected Captain, what tasks may I assist you with? I need you to channel the power of the Mother Sea's movement fragment to gather every fish within the sunken palace. I plan to capture the entire school in one sweep. Melusine's jaw dropped open in shock as she watched Shinseai's stern expression and clenched fists. Melusine internally lamented. Captain, are you being serious? Asking a mermaid to round up all marine life for capture is incredibly disrespectful to the ocean. Shinseai thought to himself. Having a native ocean ally sure makes things far more convenient. I refuse. As a child of the ocean, I will never betray my fellow sea creatures. Shinseai had anticipated this refusal. He lifted a finger, sending a faint current of electricity surging into the floating bathtub. Melusine stiffened all over from the mild electric shock, her body going limp with tingling numbness. Perhaps I could consider your request. A second jolt of electricity coursed through the water. I will carry out the task, but only once. The number of sea creatures I gather will depend entirely on chance. A third gentle electric shock followed. Melusine cupped her flushed cheeks with both hands, her tone soft and compliant. I will obey every command you give, Captain. Observing her sudden shift into eager obedience, Shinseai let out a long sigh. His earlier suspicions were now confirmed without a shadow of doubt. Melusine was unquestionably a person with intense, obsessive affection towards those she admired. Once all preparations were finalized, the group returned to the submerged palace deep on the seafloor. With the dominant shark overlord and its pack gone, the palace grounds teemed with aquatic life of all shapes and sizes, countless unknown fish swimming freely through every corridor and chamber. And Jean stared at the massive school of fish filling the entire palace hall, her eyes sparkling with excitement. So many fish. Think how many maritime coins we could earn selling all of these specimens. As the ship's chief quartermaster, and Jean oversaw every expense for the entire crew. Coupled with Shinseai's habit of spending resources freely, the sight of countless supernatural-grade fish was more than enough to fill her with joy. Shinseai pointed toward the central plaza of the palace and ordered Melusine to begin summoning the fish swarm. Melusine walked to the designated spot and cleared her throat repeatedly. Cough, cough. Between each quiet cough, she stole repeated glances toward Shinseai, waiting for his acknowledgement. Catching on to her silent hint, Shin gestured toward a half-meter-long seahorse swimming nearby. Look over there. That seahorse is enormous. Seahorse? Where is it? Sasha was well versed in the nutritional benefits recorded in Blue Planet's culinary archives. The core members of their party had been drained from successive battles, a problem she had been struggling to resolve for days on end. This unexpected windfall was exactly what she needed. Sasha and the other two female crew members departed to secure the seahorse, and Shinseai indulged Melusine's small need for attention. The large-scale operation to capture the supernatural sea fish officially commenced.